State Senator Jim Buck is 80 years old, and decades in politics and government have changed him. Maybe once he voted like a conservative, but he's changed. How else can you explain why Senator Buck voted with liberal Democrats in Indianapolis to oppose President Trump's agenda on congressional redistricting? Or why Jim Buck voted to let China own Hoosier farmland, putting Hoosier families at risk? Or why Jim Buck voted to raise our gas tax, increasing your pain at the pump, against Trump, letting China own our land, increasing the gas tax. It's a pathetic and sad pattern, a sign of a politician who's been in office too long. Call State Senator Jim Buck at 317-232-9400. Tell him 32 years in politics and government is enough. Support Trump's policies or retire already. Paid for by Hoosier Leadership for America.
There's no championship league for small business owners, but if there was, you'd be at the top of the standings. Because going pro with Lenovo Pro means you've got the winning formation. One-on-one advice, IT solutions, and customized hardware powered by Intel Core Ultra processors help you stay ahead of the competition. Business goes pro with Lenovo Pro. Sign up for free at lenovo.com/pro.
Lenovo.
Coming up in 2 minutes, we have another update from the National Weather Service this morning on the severe weather events from northern Indiana. How many tornadoes hit the northwest area on Tuesday? How will conditions be heading into this weekend, too? The charges an Indianapolis woman is now facing. Plus, did IU extend their season last night in Chicago? From the Dugan Air Heating and Cooling Mitsubishi Electric Studios, you're listening to 93 WIBC, WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. It's 9 o'clock.
Iran keeps fighting back on day 13 of Operation Epic Fury. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
The war itself is being prosecuted as well as anybody has ever seen. And this is other countries telling me too.
And President Trump also tells reporters returning to Washington last night, most people think we've already won. It's just a question of when we stop. Earlier at a rally in Kentucky, the president touted a massive release of 400 million barrels of oil from worldwide reserves. He says it'll bring prices down.
My administration, as you know better than anybody, is also working to keep the oil flowing. It's flowing all over.
But oil prices are rising again today, up almost 7%. Brent crude almost $100 a barrel again, while gas is up another 2 cents. The price at the pump 61 cents higher than before the conflict.
As the United States and Israel continue to hammer the Iranian regime, the IRGC is still launching attacks in the Persian Gulf overnight, targeting 2 oil tankers off the coast of Iraq. Reports indicate at least 1 person was killed.
And Iran set fire to a fuel storage facility in Oman, while also attacking other cargo ships in the region and firing drones into other Gulf countries. Fox's Trey Yingst also reports from Tel Aviv.
The Iranians also launching ballistic missiles overnight against Israel, but it was their key proxy Hezbollah in southern Lebanon that drew headlines overnight. Hezbollah launched more than 100 rockets over the border into northern Israel. The Israelis hammering Lebanon with airstrikes overnight, not just targeting the Dakhla neighborhood of southern Beirut, but going after Hezbollah storage facilities and rocket launching positions across the country.
And Fox's Aisha Hasni reports from the White House there's also some new concern about Iran aspiring to maybe carry out a drone attack here.
The FBI sending out an information bulletin to local law enforcement containing some unverified information about a potential surprise attack off the west coast of the homeland, specifically targeting California.
But Governor Gavin Newsom posted on X there is no imminent threat at this time. America's listening to Fox News.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
How many they know for sure. Mostly sunny skies, a much colder morning. Right now we're at 33 in the Circle City. Today's high might touch 50. I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending at 9:02. Good morning. The National Weather Service confirming that 3 tornadoes landed in parts of northwest Indiana on Tuesday. A powerful multi-state supercell tornado tore through Illinois first and then made its way into Indiana, killing 2 elderly people. Wish TV's Tim Spears reports from Lake Village in Newton County.
This is the aftermath. A pocket of businesses off US 41 destroyed. Throughout the area, just large pieces of debris scattered around. Here at the Family Dollar, the roof not just collapsed, completely ripped off. The American Red Cross has set up a shelter at North Newton High School where classes were canceled Wednesday. Volunteers prepared an area inside the school with clothes for anyone in need.
That twister rated an EF3. The other two were an EF2 in Stark County and an EF1 landing in neighboring Jasper County. NWS survey crews will continue to investigate the severe weather events from earlier this week in that region. That does make 6 tornadoes confirmed in the state so far in 2026. Strong wind gusts are expected back for Friday.
We do still have some active weather coming up this weekend. As we start out on Friday, we do have a wind advisory, so we're expecting really a dry but windy day.
Jason Puma from the National Weather Service in Indianapolis says winds will be coming out of the southwest tomorrow around 20 miles per hour, gusts as strong as 45 miles per hour. Friday will also be a little bit of a warmer day with a high in the mid-50s. A daycare worker in Indianapolis is facing a felony charge after police say a 3-year-old child was hurt at a daycare. Court records say Alexis Farrell is charged with battery causing injury to a child under 14. IMPD mentioned a video from Weston School showing the worker pulling the child off a bookshelf during nap time and the child falling face first to the floor. Investigators then say the worker later picked up the child and put them in a cot without any assistance from other employees. The average price of gas in the state of Indiana today at $3.48 a gallon. AAA says the national average is up to $3.60, 35 cents more than this time last week. The season could very well be over for the Indiana Hoosier men's basketball team. They lost to Northwestern last night in the Big Ten tournament, 74-61. IU forward Tucker DeVries after the game.
Second half, it just felt like we were a little more stagnant. We weren't able to get into the paint as much and, get as many easy looks as we did in the first half. But, that's, a lot of credit to them.
IU is among a group of teams around the bubble, likely out, though, of the NCAA tournament. Northwestern now gets Purdue this evening in Chicago. That game tips off at 6:30 Eastern. And the Pacers are finally back home. They return to Gainbridge Fieldhouse tonight following a 4-game road trip on the West Coast. Their game with the Phoenix Suns begins at 7. Check it traffic at 9:05. It's Matt Bear.
What's happening, Jared? Looking at inbound 69. That's a stall before 106, blocking the left lane. A crash on southbound 69 on the exit 2465. South side northbound 65, stop and go from South Keystone Avenue up to the South Split. And a crash south side, South Meridian Street near Hannah. Traffic sponsored by Odoo.com. All your business apps in one place. Running a business is hard enough. Odoo makes it easier with one simple all-in-one platform. Start today at Odoo.com. That's ODOO.com. I'm Matt Bear with traffic on the 5s. Follow us at WIBC Traffic.
At Pella Windows and Doors of Indianapolis, we've spent decades helping homeowners replace their windows and doors with products they can trust, installed by local experts. For a limited time, get 24% off Pella products. Visit PellaIndy.com/radio to learn why America's homeowners rate Pella Windows and Doors #1 most trusted and highest value. Call 833-87-PELLA. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Study of homeowner perceptions of leading national brands. Study commissioned by Pella, 2023.
Spring is fast approaching and a great time for a new Lincoln at Tom Roush Lincoln in Fishers. 0% financing is back. That's right, 0% for 48 months on new Corsair, Nautilus, and Aviator. Plus 0% for 36 months on new Navigator. With these rates, it's absolutely the best time to buy. Be sure to check them all out at Tom Roush Lincoln in Fishers. Our family serving yours since 1972.
0% APR for 48 months on 2026 Lincoln Corsair, Nautilus, and Aviator. 0% APR for 36 months on 2025 Lincoln Navigator. Subject to credit approval. Offers end 3/31/26. See dealer for complete offer details.
The forecast from the American Standard Heating Weather Center.
Mostly sunny, bright, calm, but much cooler today. A high of 49, increasing clouds, quiet, and not as cold overnight, a low of 40. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Marcus Bailey, 93 WIBC.
And I'm Jarrett Lewis on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
As it relates to broader concern, as it relates to drone strikes, we've been aware of that information. We've been working collaboratively through the SOC, which we established right after the war began, the State Operations Center, working with the Office of Emergency Service, but also working locally to make sure we transmit any information that we have received, and we're aware of that, which has been reported, I think, by ABC7. We're aware of that information, and we transfer that information in real time to our local partners. Drone issues have been always top of mind, and we've assembled some work groups specifically around those concerns. But that's all I'll share at the moment. I have nothing more insightful beyond just what's been reported and how we're transmitting what we know to our local partners, which is critical.
Gavin Newsom has nothing insightful to offer on anything, on any level. He could not be more excited, though, that the state of California has been in the news, so he can get in front of a camera and talk about this. He's so dramatic about these drone conversations that can only go 1,200 to 2,000 miles, and California, thousands upon thousands of miles away. His office did clarify that the State of Emergency Operations Center is not activated, but he directed the OES to elevate their security posture. Of course, he's talking about that report from ABC News that there was this potential drone coming in to hit areas of California. We'll talk more about that coming up. Caitlin Clark was back in action. My name is Casey. That's Jim, by the way. Good morning. Beautiful, beautiful morning. Thank you for being here. Caitlin Clark back in action. 17 points, 12 assists. She played for 19 minutes.
We've got 5 new players checked in for Team USA, and if you can hear the crowd, Caitlin Clark checks in to her first minutes as a senior
player instead of a junior player. We're also going to talk about the knockout endorsement. President Trump, he was welcoming Jake Paul on stage during his speech in Kentucky, saying he would endorse the YouTuber boxer if he decides to run for public office in the future.
No, he's a great guy. He's a courageous guy and a talented guy. He's a hell of a fighter, too, by the way. And I just want to say, I'm going to make a prediction that you will be, in the not-too-distant future, running for political office. Okay? And you have my complete and total endorsement.
Complete and total. And it was also announced a star-studded lineup of artists are going to take the stage during the 26th NCAA March Madness Music Festival. This is a free 3-day concert series set for April 3rd through the 5th at the American Legion Mall. And one of the bands that is going to be there, the Zac Brown Band.
And a little bit of chicken fried. Yeah. Cold beer on a Friday night. A pair of jeans that fit just right. And the radio up. A lot of CD song.
Always keep that radio up. No matter what's going on, keep the radio up.
I can see the Zac Brown band absolutely free.
Yes.
That's a banger. That's huge.
I know.
Look, I'm not accused. Zac Brown isn't breaking any, high-level artistic integrity musical feats, but the guy is just a flat-out good time.
Yeah.
They're a lot of fun. Okay,
yeah.
Fantastic.
Chicken
That's
fried.
Up in a few weeks.
Just in a few weeks, too.
And they've got a ton of great songs. That's awesome. We might have to go check that out.
So the FBI sent a warning to police departments in California about a possible Iranian retaliation against the United States. The alert said Iran may have wanted to launch a surprise drone attack on the West Coast. And this potential attack would involve unmanned drones launched from a ship off the U.S. coast, targeting various locations somewhere in California. And I think the biggest takeaway on all of this drone conversation is that we are watching warfare change in real time. We're so used to all of these high-dollar, very expensive pieces of equipment when these drones are much less expensive.
Yeah, our military has been built on very expensive, highly specialized, and highly effective, for certain things, pieces of equipment. $2 or $3 billion for a B-2 stealth bomber and hundreds of millions per stealth F-35, and we spend $13 billion on a brand new aircraft carrier, when those might be a little bit more than what we need and a lot more effective. So you're right. What we're seeing here are militaries looking for more cost-effective ways to do things and deal in volume. That's what Iran has done. They've said, you know what? We can build this drone for $20,000. We can buy thousands of them for the money that it would cost us for one really good fighter jet. Let's just have a bunch of cheap, kind of effective, but if we throw enough of them at somebody, some of them will squeak through.
Now, you said the price tag of $20,000. It's being reported that within the matter of a couple years, these drones will be much less than that. We're talking like $2,500. Your monthly mortgage could be paying for these cheap products. So Iran's been using a real cheap drone. It's called the Shahed 136. They've been doing that for years. The Pentagon has recently announced a program called Drone Dominance, and they want to get 340,000 of these drones in the United States' hands. So again, we're watching how warfare is changing in real time. The model that everybody is talking about is called Lucas. It was reverse engineered from Iran. And the scary part about all of it is that it can be autonomous on a very large scale. Right now, the Pentagon does have their directive that humans have to be in control during some chain of the command. Where and at what level, that's kind of secret information at this point. But that's what we're looking towards. That should scare the hell out of you, honestly, that you're talking about thousands upon thousands of autonomous drones very cheaply in the hands of countries all over the world very soon.
Yeah, and I think the challenge here for America and other big powers around the world is how can we build a cheap drone deterrent? Because right now, like you said, it doesn't make sense. If Iran is going to shoot off this $20,000 drone and we're using a $2 or $3 million missile to shoot one down, the economics fall apart on that really quickly. The other part of this is, so keep in mind too, so there's this big story in ABC News about how the FBI issued this bulletin to California law enforcement saying, hey, Iran aspires to launch a drone attack on California, despite the fact that these drones can't reach anywhere near California if they launch from Iran. And there was talk about, Iran might launch these drones from a vessel outside the West Coast. Okay, settle down there. We've got satellites. We've got a Coast Guard. We've got ways of monitoring this. And then the other part of this is some reports where, Iran could work with the cartels in Mexico and Central America and maybe have them launch the drones from either Mexico or Central America. Doubt that's going to happen. Hey, Donald Trump, you don't want that smoke from Donald Trump. Donald Trump has an itchy trigger finger right now for the cartels in Mexico. He would just love an excuse to be able to deploy the military and take out the cartels in Mexico. So I think that this is pretty skeptical. I found the funniest part of the article says Iran aspires to do this. And that I thought was the key word in all of it, aspires to do this. Well, I aspire to be the starting point guard for the Indiana Pacers in the NBA. Not gonna happen, but I can have aspirations to that. I didn't like anything about this story. I think that there is there's always, you've got to keep this in mind. Whenever you hear about leaked information coming out of Washington,
what's the motive?
What's the motive behind the leaker? And I'm going to tell you, being transparent might be the motive like 2% of the time. The other 98% of the time, somebody has a very specific vested interest that may have nothing to do with the subject you're talking about as to why they leaked that information out to the public. This specific story here just reeks of that because I don't think anybody thinks that there's any way Iran really has even a possibility of a drone strike in the continental U.S.
So the intelligence was gathered in early February, and it was gathered long before the U.S. even launched any strikes against Iran. You've got a former CIA specialist, Sarah Adams, and she says that this just does not line up with how Iran actually operates, nor its targeting of Western interests. And some people are saying, well, is this just a false flag?
Yeah, it very well could be, or like you talked about earlier. What's the motive for the person leaking it? It may have nothing to do with the Iran war, maybe something completely different. But she's right about this, and that woman, former government official, her name is, what's her last name?
Sarah Adams.
Sarah Adams. She's pretty sharp, and she's all over social media and does the podcast circuit. And she talks a lot about how this is not Iran's, this is not the way they operate. And it makes sense. What sort of real damage would Iran do, even if they could get off a drone on the West Coast? Okay, people would be scared in this country, but Iran's going to further their goals a lot farther by having that drone attack something in the Strait of Hormuz or throwing it toward another hotel in Dubai or Saudi Arabia. That's going to benefit them a lot more than this Herculean effort of maybe getting this one-off that lands somewhere in the continental United States.
So we've got to talk about what's going on with the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and it has absolutely nothing to do with Iran. That's coming up. You're listening to 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
Be very wary of where you send your kids to high school and very wary of where you send your kids to college, especially your daughters. They're more susceptible to this outrage farming. They just are. The data is clear. And guys who don't find conservatives reaching out to them and saying to them, you're not crazy, they end up playing in Groyperville. That beta male cuck anti-Semite freak has nothing to offer you.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Look at you sitting there all stuck in traffic and paying more because of State Senator Greg Walker. That's because in the state Senate, Greg Walker voted to raise our gas tax. You believe that? And Greg Walker opposed President Trump's plan to remove liberal Democrats from Congress. That could mean more road funding for New York, not Indiana. So next time you're stuck in traffic, think about this. Greg Walker voted for higher gas taxes and opposed President Trump's policies. Are those the kind of conservative values we want in the state Senate? Yeah, I didn't think so. President Trump calls Greg Walker a rhino and a loser, and he's right. We don't have to be stuck with rhino Greg Walker. Call Greg Walker at 317-232-9400. Tell him to support lower gas taxes and President Trump's agenda. Paid for by Hoosier Leadership for America.
Hey, Pat Sullivan here. Nothing shocks Hope Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. That's why anytime I need electrical help, they're the only ones I call. From flickering lights and trip breakers to panel upgrades and new outlets, Hope's electricians are ready to light up your home safely and reliably. So when things go dark, don't push your luck. Call Hope Plumbing and Heating at 641-HOPE. That's 641-HOPE. Hope Plumbing.
The spring sale is in bloom at Scandinavian Designs. For a limited time, enjoy huge savings on select modern furniture and decor, including pieces for your living room, bedroom, dining room, and beyond. This is your chance to refresh a favorite space or dream up an entirely new look. Stop by one of our local showrooms or shop online at ScandinavianDesigns.com. Scandinavian Designs. We make it simple. You make it home.
Veterans and active duty service members, when your call to service ends, your mission doesn't have to. Go from GI to IT in just a few months at My Computer Career. Prepare for a high-demand career in cybersecurity, protecting people, systems, and institutions from real cyber threats. Cyber warriors are needed now. Will you answer the call? Go to mycomputercareer.edu/CWP to learn more. That's mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. An elite CompTIA certification partner. VA education benefits are available to those who qualify.
I love a day on the water with friends, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis sometimes holds me back. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy.
Teaching music is my passion, but my active psoriatic arthritis can limit me at times. Now I'm treating my joint symptoms with Skyrizi.
With Skyrizi, most people with plaque psoriasis saw 90% clearer skin at 4 months.
Or if you are an adult with active psoriatic arthritis, Skyrizi helps you move with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
There's nothing like clearer skin.
There's nothing like better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZI to learn more.
Planning for retirement? It's a little like marriage. We have no idea what we're getting into. Tune in to Fire Your Financial Advisor, Sunday mornings at 7 on WIBC.
Swanko Crawl Space and Basement Repair, Indy's most trusted crawl space and basement contractor. 317-407-1868, SwankoLLC.com.
Epic Fury!
Donald Trump very excited during his speech in Kentucky last night, talking about Operation Epic Fury. He said it's a great name. Well, it's only good if you win, and we've won. They said that they gave him about 20 different names to pick from, and he saw the word epic and he saw the word fury, and that he liked that name, and that's what he went with. I don't know how I feel about him being really excited about a military operation at a political rally. I feel like it needs to be taken a little bit more seriously, a little bit more subdued, because there are Americans who have lost their lives because of this.
Yeah, you're right, Casey. I remember the good old days when the president would land a jet on an aircraft carrier with a huge banner that said mission accomplished. Oh, wait, I guess presidents have always been doing this for a long, long time. I find it fascinating that the president approves the operation name. I had no idea that it went up that high in the chain of command as to what we're going to call this operation.
You thought it would be some generals deciding?
Well, and they gave him 20 options, and it sounds like, I mean, that's a lot of options to give somebody, and it sounds like Trump picked his favorite. Yeah, but I had no idea, so I guess that means, H.W. Bush approved Operation Desert Storm, and George W. Bush approved all those operations. I guess that's just new information. Didn't realize that was the way it worked.
So Peter Doocy from Fox News, he asked Donald Trump to clarify whether the U.S. military action against Iran was a, quote, little excursion or an actual war. And Doocy said, you've called it a little excursion. You've also called it a war. Which one is it? Trump responded and said, it's both. An excursion is meant to prevent a bigger war, but for Iran, it's war, while the U.S., it's been easier than expected. So it's a little war excursion, I guess, if we combine it all together. Regardless, when you're dropping thousands of bombs, it's not a little excursion.
No, I don't think anybody. If you wanted to call what we did in Venezuela a little excursion, I think a reasonable American would say, okay, yeah, I buy that. That's a little excursion. There's no way that anybody, a reasonable person, would expect that what's happening in Iran is a little, incursion. It's obviously a big deal, and I think that. And this goes back to, Trump is always going to bloviate. He's always going to exaggerate. He's always going to use a ton of hyperbole. And we know that. We've just got to factor that into it. And again, go back to, the classic, line of some talking head that I heard was, never take Donald Trump literally, always take him seriously. So when he says words like war or incursion or whatever, don't take him literally, but still take him seriously.
So you've got the Iran sports minister, who magically is still alive, said that Iran's national soccer team cannot participate in the 26 World Cup. And, of course, he gave the ongoing little war excursion between Iran and U.S. as the reason. He said that the players would not be safe traveling to the United States, which, of course, is one of the host countries, also hosted in Canada and Mexico. Okay, great. Don't come. Well, it's a soccer game. Sorry.
And I think it's interesting here is that, this wasn't the governing body of FIFA that oversees the World Cup. It wasn't them saying Iran can't play in this. This is Iran saying it. So keep in mind, this has happened to countries before. Back during apartheid in South Africa, they were banned from playing in international games. Yugoslavia has been banned from international sports competition. You remember that? You remember the Bosnia-Herzegovina war? That thing from 30 or 40 years ago? And then Russia has been banned for a while now from competing in Olympics. And so the difference here is that Iran is taking themselves out of this. You could say, if I were a cynical person, I might look to the other story about Iran's women's soccer team and the controversy that erupted there when they were playing in Australia, and 5 of their team members officially asked for asylum. And
Australia said no, put them on a plane.
And Australia said no and put them on a plane. So this could be more about Iran not wanting their soccer team to come to the United States and then maybe claim asylum and never go back. That would be an absolute PR disaster for Iran. So I think this has a lot more to do with Iran protecting themselves from that than saying, oh, no, our athletes wouldn't be safe in the United States.
And you have to ask yourself, where are all the feminists standing up for those female soccer players? I mean, you've probably seen the picture of them on the plane looking out the window forlornly like, oh, we don't want to go back. But yet there they were.
And this is why I hate party politics in this United States, because the liberals and the left for decades have made...
Where's Megan Rapinoe?
Exactly, have made women's rights, the number one thing, that's the most important thing in the world, and yet you've got these soccer players, Iranian soccer players, that are trying to claim asylum in Iran. There's been no outrage on the left from that. By the way, Iran treats their women terribly. They're subhuman. They're not really considered full citizens. And again, we're trying to go over to Iran and change that, but the liberals and the left have nothing to do and nothing to say about the oppressive Iran regime as it relates to how they treat their women.
Okay, so there was an article that came out, and it claims that the Department of Defense, Department of War, led by Pete Hegseth, spent $93 billion in September alone on contracts and grants. But it's the list of items that is really going to make you angry. $2 million on Alaskan king crab, $6.9 million on lobster tail, $15.1 million on ribeye steak. You have $124,000 spent for ice cream machines and over $139,000 for 272 orders of donuts. A lot of groups are saying that this is just year-end budget practices because this is a use it or lose it situation. They've got money in the budget. If they don't spend it, they're not going to get it next year.
Yeah, it doesn't look good for Pete Hegseth when you've got him spending millions of dollars on lobster tails. But the real source of the problem here is the fact that the government does not do zero-based budgeting. If you don't know what that is, most of the corporate world, when you're doing budgets, they say, okay, you're going to start at zero. You got to prove to me why you need this money. But in most levels of government, and I can tell you, it happens at state government as well. Right here in Indiana, the way they budget is, okay, we gave you $1 million for this last year, but you only spent $500,000 this year. So when we do the budget next year, we're only giving you $500,000. That is a disastrous way to budget, and unfortunately, that's the way most government in this country budgets. And so you have these governments just wasting your tax dollars because they're afraid they're not going to get that money back next year if they don't spend it this year. It is insane that that's the way we do our budgeting in this country. And like I said, it happens also here in Indiana with our state dollars.
So September, what they end up doing is just blowing it all out so they can make sure that it's on the budget for next year. It's forcing these agencies to blow through all of this money instead of saving it. So some other things that were purchased: $225 million spent on furniture overall, $12,540 on decorative fruit basket stands, $60,000 on Herman Miller chairs. You had $98,000 spent for a Steinway grand piano at an Air Force leader's residence. Some muckety-muck got a really, really fancy piano. Also $21,000 for a custom Japanese flute. A flute, guys.
It sounds stupid when you say it out loud. No, I'll give you a break. It sounds stupid when you write it down, too. This reminds me of that movie from the 80s, Brewster's Millions. You remember that? Richard Pryor, he gets this inheritance, but he has to find a way to spend $30 million in 30 days, and so he's just blowing it on whatever he can find so he can get the big inheritance after that. This is exactly like, this is the government version of Brewster's Millions.
This definitely contradicts promise to reduce government waste. You're listening to 93 WIBC.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
He's pictured springing into action. I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending now at 9:30. The NYPD chief, who was photographed hopping a barricade to arrest 2 terror suspects, is now speaking out. Fox's Chanley Painter has more.
NYPD Chief Aaron Edwards and his partner Sergeant Luis Navarro say they were just doing their jobs when they charged right towards 2 suspects with homemade bombs at a protest last Saturday. Edwards leaping over a barrier on his way to tackle 18-year-old Emir Balad after he allegedly hurled an improvised explosive device at a group of protesters outside the mayor's mansion in New York City. The teen was about to throw a second device handed to him by 19-year-old Ibrahim Kayumi when he dropped it. Navarro running towards that second device as smoke billowed from it. Both teens are facing federal terrorism charges for the alleged ISIS-inspired attack.
And the U.S. will tap into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve as there's been a global oil supply shock that sent prices above $120 per barrel for a short time earlier this week. Ships are reluctant to travel through the Strait of Hormuz due to missile and drone attacks from Iran during the country's ongoing conflict with the U.S. and Israel. Energy Secretary Chris Wright tells Fox's The Ingram Angle he expects oil will start flowing through the strait soon.
They'll go over about 4 months, but this conflict I don't think goes that long. I think we will have the Straits of Hormuz open well before then.
President Trump told ships to go through the strait on Wednesday, saying it's safe after American forces took out 16 Iranian mine-laying ships. Meanwhile, 6 female Iranian soccer players have been granted asylum in Australia while the war is going on back home, although it's unclear what will happen to the rest of the team when they return. Iran has withdrawn the men's soccer team from the upcoming FIFA World Cup in the U.S., with the country's sports minister blaming Operation Epic Fury and the assassination of the Ayatollah. Your opening bell report on 93 WIBC is brought to you by Absolute Wealth Management. The Dow falling over 500 points now. It's down 506 to 47,417. The S&P 500 is down 58 points. It's at 6,775. And the NASDAQ is in the red, 215 points, 24,965. I'm Jarrett Lewis on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
Xfinity Tech Support, Matthew speaking.
Hi, I live in a pretty remote place, like Jurassic Park remote. No!
Wow.
Will Xfinity Mobile work out here?
Yep, the combination of reliable Wi-Fi and 5G makes it so that you can stay connected in all kinds of places. Plus, you get access to ultra-fast speeds and coverage, whether you're poolside or out live streaming with a T-Rex.
Hold still, you're about to go viral.
Welcome to a new era of Wi-Fi boosted mobile. Cut your mobile bill in half with 2 lines of unlimited. Learn more at xfinitymobile.com. Xfinity. Imagine that. Watch Jurassic Park with Xfinity. Restrictions apply. Xfinity Internet required. Savings comparison based on promotional rate for 2 lines of Xfinity Mobile Unlimited versus 2 lines of T-Mobile Experience More, Verizon Unlimited Plus, and AT&T Starter as of February 10th, 2026. Taxes, fees, extra.
Chris was able to save a life. When Chris died, it was devastating and it was very sudden. We learned that Chris was already an organ donor. There is a lady that is alive with Chris's liver. That is just totally amazing to me.
Be a hero. Save a life. Say yes to organ donation.
It made me so happy because Chris was our hero. Because of him, we are all now organ donors.
Learn more at donatelifeindiana.org.
Your Pacers returned to Cambridge Fieldhouse for back-to-back games.
Up fakes the 3, drives, and he went up and under beautifully. Spun it off the glass and drew the foul.
Watch the Blue and Gold take on the Suns Thursday at 7, followed by a rivalry showdown versus the Knicks Friday at 7:30.
Donald comes hard down the left side. Beautiful blind bounce pass. Back into the lane. It's gobbled up and laid in by Neesmith.
Don't miss your chance to be in on the action.
Nembhard from the right edge. Beat the shot clock and hit a 3.
Grab tickets today at Pacers.com/tickets.
Get 15% off all water treatment products and softeners. C&J, 317-316-0673 or cnjwater.com.
Are you within 5 years of filing for Social Security? You know, when you file impacts more than your benefits check. It could also impact your taxes, IRA, and 401k withdrawals, spousal benefits, and your Medicare premiums. Learn the best time for you to file for your benefits with a free customized Social Security analysis from Bill Demery, your retirement guy in Indy. This analysis pinpoints exactly how you could get the most out of your benefits while considering the impact on your taxes, IRA, and 401k withdrawals, spousal benefits, and more. Go to yourretirementguy.com to schedule that analysis.
And it's absolutely free. If you've saved more than $200,000 and have not yet filed for Social Security, schedule that free analysis right now by calling 317-648-5120. 317-648-5120 or go to yourretirementguy.com.
I think about quitting every day, and every day I buy more cigarettes. I want to quit, but I feel like I have to have them. I know that sounds bad, but I will quit someday.
Quit Now Indiana offers free help with no judgment. Why wait? Get the help you need. No lectures, no pressure, just free help. Call 1-800-QUIT-NOW today.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-296-1251. 800-296-1251. That's 800-296-1251. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Where do you stand on the Save America Act? Do you, support getting this legislation passed to protect elections?
Not as it is drafted, no.
Why not?
The implementation in a rural state like Alaska is going to disenfranchise an extraordinary majority. And while I support citizenship voting and voting ID, I want to make sure that it's implemented.
So that is Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. She came out against the Save America Act. Big surprise, huh? She's basically saying that Alaskans are too stupid to get IDs. When she says they'll be disenfranchised, I mean, this is a Democrat in Republican clothes. Would you be willing to trade Murkowski for Fetterman?
I'd make that trade 100 times out of 100, because this is, listen to how awful Lisa Murkowski is. So she was a rep from Alaska, and her dad had the Senate seat. Her dad had the Senate seat.
Right.
But then her dad ran for governor of Alaska, but he had 2 years left on his Senate term. And so when he became governor of Alaska, like most states, when there's an opening at the Senate, the governor gets to choose the Senate. So who do you think he chose to fill his Senate seat? His kid.
Yeah.
Lisa Murkowski gets appointed to be a part of the U.S. Senate. And then in 2010, Lisa Murkowski loses the Republican primary.
Yeah, she totally would not be in office if it weren't for ranked choice voting.
Absolutely. So she loses the Republican primary. She then runs not even as an independent because it was too late. She had to run as a write-in candidate. Now, props to her. Somehow she was able to pull it off and got elected as a write-in candidate. But then she spends the next 10 years pushing for ranked choice voting in Alaska because, of course, she doesn't want to lose another election. Better change the election rules so that they protect me. So she finally does that, and now we've got ranked choice voting in Alaska, which, by the way, ranked choice voting may sound like a good idea on paper. It is a disaster in real life. It is the quickest way to get the most lunatic weirdos elected to public office, both on the left and right side of the political parties.
Yeah, so here's your president. He was talking about the Save America Act.
It's a very basic thing. It's called Save America, actually, and that's what it is. It's having to do with voting and voter ID. We want voter ID. We want proof of citizenship. We added a couple. No men playing in women's sports. We don't want that. Nobody does. I think it's about a 98% issue. We want no transgender mutilation of our children. Very basic things that you wouldn't even think we'd be talking about 15 or 20 years ago. But for the voting aspect of it is we want voter ID, very important. You have to have identification and you have to have proof of citizenship. We don't want mail-in ballots. We don't want to have ballots coming from all different corners of the world. We want to have it accurate, and you can't do that with mail-in ballots. Actually, Jimmy Carter headed a commission years ago. He said mail-in ballots no good. We're the only country in the world that's doing mail-in ballots. And that would exclude, though, our military or people that are ill, people that are away. So we're generous in that way, but people don't want mail-in ballots because you have crooked elections. It guarantees a crooked election.
So now you've got John Cornyn, Republican senator from Texas, who has reversed his long-standing support for the Senate filibuster. He is now saying that, maybe they should change or weaken the rules so that they can pass the Save America Act, which is, a 180 from where he was. But here's the deal. He's really wanting Donald Trump to endorse him.
Yeah, really wanting Donald Trump, which apparently Donald Trump is now endorsing people that aren't even running for office. We had that audio of him endorsing Jake Paul. Hey, if you ever run for office, I'm totally throwing my support by you. Are you running for office? No, I'm not running for office right now. So, yeah, that's a little weird. But this goes back to the Murkowski thing. This is what we've been talking about for the last several weeks or couple of months. We can't even get all the Republicans on board with this. We can't even get all the Republicans in the Senate on board with voter ID, which, by the way, is supported by 80% of the country. Not 80% of Republicans. It's like 97% of Republicans support it. I'm just talking about the general population. 80% of Americans support voter ID. We can't even get all the Republican senators on board with voter ID, and Lisa Murkowski being against it. No surprise based on her background, but this is why John Thune has been so weak in this entire process. We talked about it a lot yesterday. John Thune has to call for this vote, regardless of whether or not they've got the votes to get it, because we need every single senator on record as to whether or not they support this act so that we can use it against them when it comes to either Republican primaries going forward, if a Republican votes against it, but certainly leverage it against the Democrats in the fall midterms.
Yeah, so you've got Thune, 64 years old, spent the past 3 decades in Washington. Right now, under his leadership, the Senate, a graveyard for Trump-backed legislation, which has been passed by the House. So you've got the real obstruction not being the Democrats, not even the media. Heck, it's the Republican leadership. It's John Thune. Let's take a look at some of the bills that are just gathering dust. The SAVE Act. You've got the protection of women and girls in sports. You've got the Epstein Files Transparency Act.
Those are 3 issues that are 80-20 issues in this country where 80% of the population supports it and 20% oppose it. Run through that list again for me one more time.
Well, the SAVE Act.
80-20 issue.
Protection of women and girls in sports act.
80-20 issue, keep the boys out of the girls' locker rooms.
Yep, Epstein Files Transparency Act.
And 80% of the country believes all the Epstein files should be released. Yet the Republican majority leader in the Senate, John Thune, can't get these bills through his own Senate.
That's correct. Now, there is talk, there's an idea that J.D. Vance can actually replace John Thune as Senate Majority Leader while continuing to serve as Vice President. This is constitutionally supported by the precedent of John Adams, who presided over the Senate as Vice President from 1797 to 1801. And actually, it was Charlie Kirk who came up with this idea over a year ago, saying that you could put J.D. Vance in this position and completely remove people like John Thune from the entire process who were holding things up.
And I actually remember it being floated as a concept back when the Republicans were voting as to who should be majority leader. So I'm glad that that's coming about again. Would I support J.D. Vance as being the Republican leader in the Senate? Absolutely. He's going to be 100 times better than John Thune. And this was a big deal back when John Thune was running to be the majority leader in the Senate. There were people out there that were saying, look, this is not a good idea. Rick Scott was his major challenger. That was Trump's guy. That was the one that a lot of people were pushing through there. A lot of Republican senators warned against electing John Thune as the majority leader. And it turns out all of those senators were exactly right. He is not what the Republicans need as the leader in the Senate.
So here you've got Senator Alex Padilla, and he says that he will die on this hill to block the Save America Act from passing.
That's their goal. That's their goal, to make sure that only the, quote, right people are voting to elect, quote, the right leaders. We're not going to stand for it. I will die on the hill to make sure it doesn't get out of the Senate. That's their goal.
Okay,
That's
so this is a Democrat, and he says they're trying to block the right people from voting by the right people. Does he mean American citizens?
He means American citizens.
Oh,
look,
okay.
That's a gutsy move by Padilla right there, to come out and be so forceful and so emphatic on a situation where 80% of the American people disagree with you. Again, this is all. Look, I want the SAVE Act passed, and we've got to do everything we can to get this SAVE Act passed. But if we can't, we need to get all of these politicians on record and as many audio and video clips from them as we can, so that we can run that all over the place when it comes to campaigns in the fall election. Because this is it blows my mind how the Democrats are just so far out of the mainstream on their position with this act.
Now you've got social media influencer Scott Pressler. We actually saw him. He's the guy with the long hair who is trying to get people enrolled to vote.
Yeah,
Pennsylvania did a lot of work in Pennsylvania.
And yes, when you and I were at the Trump Butler 2.0 rally, we saw Scott Pressler there.
So now he is getting so angry about this because he's been wanting the SAVE Act to get passed, that he is now encouraging people to withhold money from any fundraising. Because he's like, these Republicans in the Senate, they're not listening to us. This is what we want. So let's hit them where it hurts, and that's in the wallet.
And I'm all for that. I'm all for any sort of creative solution that can improve this situation. It does make me nervous when they talk about getting rid of the filibuster, because that's a permanent change, and the Democrats are going to be back in power sometime, and
Eventually.
they'll use it for their leverage. What I am more in favor of is what Rep. Anna Paulina Luna talked about yesterday, and that's maybe attaching it to another bill,
FISA.
like the FISA bill,
Mhm.
to be able to sneak it through so that you don't have an issue with the filibuster, causing it from going forward. But again, the filibuster right now doesn't look like that's our problem. The Republicans are our problem. Still can't get 50 votes from Republicans in the Senate for the SAVE Act.
So you've got former First Lady Jill Biden. She's releasing a new memoir, and the title does it for you. The title is called View from the East Wing.
I thought that was interesting. And look, if I'm advising former First Lady Jill Biden, that's a interesting title, because, of course, the First Lady's office is in the East Wing of the White House, or should I say was in the East Wing of the White House, because the East Wing no longer exists since it's been torn down for the ballroom construction and the remodeling. But I found that to be a very odd title, A View from the East Wing, because if she was in the
East Wing's a lot different than when she was in there.
If she was sitting in the East Wing now, or at least where the East Wing was, the view would be a whole bunch of mounds of dirt and backhoes and dump trucks. So actually, kind of ironically, works out. Your husband's presidency was a dumpster fire, a dump truck of a presidency, and that's what you titled your book, View from the East Wing, and your view would be nothing but backhoes and dump trucks right now.
It's supposed to give some behind-the-scenes stories from the White House, walks through some of the moments during the pandemic, and also Joe Biden's decision to drop out of the 24 presidential race. She called writing the book cathartic. Does anybody really think that she was actually writing it? She probably had a ghostwriter. She said that the goal is to set the record straight, and that's pretty much what Washington memoirs are. They're basically just reputation repairs, especially when politicians lose power. The first thing they do is come out with a book explaining what happened and why none of it was their fault.
Well, I'll be really surprised if she, in fact, does, quote, set the record straight, especially when it comes to the story about how Joe Biden dropped out of the race. Because if she's going to tell the true story, it's going to be about how Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi put a gun to his head and said, hey, by the way, drop out or you're cooked, dude.
I know you're rushing out to get this. It's going to be out on June 2nd of this year. You're listening to 93 WIBC.
Coming up on Tony Katz today, what's the latest on this threat of an Iranian drone strike in California, and what does it tell us about hitting them first? That's after the news at noon on 93 WIBC.
A dirty, stinking honest.
A $200 million buyback in mortgage securities plus a new rate-friendly Fed chair is coming this spring. These moves are intended to push mortgage rates lower. The last time rates dropped, we saw a selling and buying frenzy. Now is the time to prepare to sell your home. It's time to call the expert, Mark Dietel. Maybe you need to sell now. Maybe you need to maximize price, buying or selling fast or maximum cash. Mark Dietel has the proven plan to sell your home based on your needs, guaranteed. Mark Dietel is the only real estate expert trusted and recommended with the sale of your home. Mark Dietel guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. You just pick your move date. No long-term contracts. You can cancel at any time. Sharon in Greenwood said, I had moved into my new home and I needed a smooth sale of my old place ASAP. Mark Dietel's team prepped my home quickly and launched an aggressive marketing plan. Success. It's sold over asking in just 10 days while making everything simple and stress-free for me. Call the local Indianapolis agent, trusted and recommended, the agent who guarantees your home sold or he'll buy it. Call Mark Dietel, 317-755-4232. Get all the details, or go online to markdietel.com. That's Mark Dietel, D-I-E-T-E-L, markdietel.com. Spring showers might bring flowers, but they can also bring roof leaks. Strong winds, heavy rain can expose hidden damage, leading to costly water issues inside your home. And the longer you wait, the worse it gets. Water seeping into your attic, walls, insulation causing mold and rot, expensive structural damage. The good news is that Moss Roofing offers free inspections right now. Whether it's a small leak or a big roofing concern, their expert team will assess the damage and provide reliable, cost-effective solutions. With over 35 25 years of experience, Moss Roofing knows how to protect your home from the unpredictable spring weather. So don't wait for a minor drip to turn into a major repair. For top-notch roofing services, trust who I trust. Moss Roofing, to keep you dry this spring. For a job done right every single time, visit mossroofing.com or call 317-747-3665. That's mossroofing.com, 317-747-3665. And let them know Tony Katz sent you. MOSS, mossroofing.com.
Hey, John, why so glum? I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. Mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter. Celebrate with WIBC Saturday with the Home and Garden Show live at Sullivan's, 71st and Keystone for the Father Glenn St. Patty's Day Party. Irish-inspired dishes and beer, plus live entertainment with 100% of ticket sales donated to Seeds of Hope nonprofit.
A Wednesday game before a holiday? Are we trying to turn every day into Sunday football? More football, more life. So there is now talk that the NFL is exploring adding a Thanksgiving Eve, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, game on the 26th season. It would extend the league's already long holiday football stretch, which includes Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday games. Now we want one on Wednesday night.
Yeah, we want at least one on Wednesday night. Yeah, to answer your question.
I knew you'd be okay with this.
To answer your question, do we want football on every day? Yes, of course we want football on every day. It really is kind of fascinating because there are very few things in American culture today that have the scale and ability and demand that NFL football has. They cannot put on enough games. They just keep putting on more and more games, and the ratings just keep going higher and higher. But this is part of the NFL strategies to own Thanksgiving weekend. So years ago, it was just Thanksgiving. They would have a couple games on Thanksgiving, and that was it. And then they added a third game on Thanksgiving, and they were like, all right, that's going pretty darn well. How about we do Black Friday? And they did that a couple of years ago. Hugely successful. So, of course, they're going to look to expand every single time they can. Yeah, I think it's inevitable that they end up doing a game on Thanksgiving Eve, as they call it, and will be exciting because the NFL releases their schedules. I believe it's May 13th.
The full schedule's not out just yet.
I think it comes out on May 13th. And by the way, that they've turned into a TV show. There's an entire TV show where all they do is show you...
Talk about the games coming up.
Exactly. What the schedules for each NFL team are. So there's so much demand for all sorts of NFL content, both game content and stuff like a schedule release show, that, of course, they're just going to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it.
Yeah, if people want it and advertisers are going to pay for it, guess what? The NFL is going to do it.
More NFL!
More! Give us more. Speaking of NFL, you have the Indianapolis Colts, who signed Daniel Jones to a 2-year contract worth about $88 million, $44 million a year. That's nice. That's nice for him.
This is a gutsy move by the Colts. Yeah. So $44 million a year puts Daniel Jones in the top tier as far as payment goes for NFL quarterbacks. And look, he had a pretty good season last year before he was injured. The problem is he's injured a lot. He missed games in 2020, in 2021, 2022, 2023, and then of course he was out for the rest of the season last year after he tore his Achilles. $44 million a year for a guy that's injury prone seems like a risky bet.
$44 million, and he had 7 good games last year.
He had 7.
7.
That hourly rate is incredible.
Yeah, it is. Nikki Kelly from Indiana Capitol Chronicle is going to join us next. You're listening to 93 WIBC.
State Senator Jim Buck is 80 years old, and decades in politics and government have changed him. Maybe once he voted like a conservative, but he's changed. How else can you explain why Senator Buck voted with liberal Democrats in Indianapolis to oppose President Trump's agenda on congressional redistricting? Or why Jim Buck voted to let China own Hoosier farmland, putting Hoosier families at risk? Or why Jim Buck voted to raise our gas tax, increasing your pain at the pump, against Trump, letting China own our land, increasing the gas tax. It's a pathetic and sad pattern, a sign of a politician who's been in office too long. Call State Senator Jim Buck at 317-232-9400. Tell him 32 years in politics and government is enough. Support Trump's policies or retire already. Paid for by Hoosier Leadership for America.
Selling the house the non-traditional way to a company like Simple Quarters takes so much stress and relief off of you. You can put that time back in your family and taking care of what needs to be taken care of. So my father-in-law, his health was declining. We needed to move him to put in assisted living, and we needed to get the home out of his name. Initially, my wife just wanted to let the property be taken over by the state. She was stressed just due to the condition of her dad, moving him back to Indianapolis. And I told her, look, we can sell the home, use those funds to care for him over the next few years. I really didn't want to hassle with putting it on the market, listing it, answering questions, fixing stuff. I reached out to Simple Quarters. The process was just super easy through Simple Quarters. Everything they said they did. There was no pressure involved whatsoever. The pricing I got for the house was very fair, and it was a relief knowing we didn't have the financial responsibility and we could just put all our time and energy into taking care of our father-in-law.
Call Simple Quarters 317-687-HOME, 317-687-HOME.
Save hundreds of dollars with free delivery plus low price guarantees on quality brand name furniture and mattresses.
Only at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
Express Pro Tire and Auto is the best in brakes. Brake packages starting at $119.99 per axle. We beat any competitor's pricing. Valid with a written estimate. Go to xpressspro.com to schedule an appointment.
Express Pro Tire and Auto.
Pella of Indianapolis provides window and door replacement with products you can trust. For a limited time, call 833-87-PELLA or visit PellaIndy.com/radio and get 24% off Pella products. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
There's no championship league for small business owners, but if there was, you'd be at the top of the standings. Because going pro with Lenovo Pro means you've got the winning formation. One-on-one advice, IT solutions, and customized hardware powered by Intel Core Ultra processors help you stay ahead of the competition. Business goes pro with Lenovo Pro. Sign up for free at Lenovo.com/pro.
Lenovo.
In 2 minutes from the Dugan Air Heating and Cooling Mitsubishi Electric Studios, residents and disaster crews looking through the damage caused by a tornado that hit Newton County in northwest Indiana Tuesday. The National Weather Service has confirmed that there was more than one. More strong winds are expected in the state soon, plus a ruling from an Indiana coroner on how an ICE detainee died. You're listening to 93 WIBC.
This is a Fox News alert. We're hearing from Iran's new supreme leader for the first time. I'm Dave Anthony. It's a statement he wrote that an anchor read on Iran State TV. Vowing Iran will have revenge for atrocities and not refrain. Also vowing to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, halting oil shipping until the war is over.
Now, Iran's new supreme leader in this statement goes on to say all U.S. bases should immediately be closed in the region, and those bases will be attacked. He calls on unity among the people of Iran.
Mojtaba Khamenei has not been seen in public yet. He took over just days ago, replacing his father.
Remember, Iran's former supreme leader was taken out in the opening strikes of Operation Epic Fury when this war began. And in those opening strikes, Mojtaba Khamenei's wife mother and one son were also killed.
That's Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. As Israel was targeted again overnight by Iranian missiles and rockets fired from Hezbollah in Lebanon. It's now day 13 of Operation Epic Fury, and with Iran continuing to counterattack, U.S. Ambassador to the UN Mike Waltz just told Fox.
The Iranian strategy of sowing chaos, shooting in all directions, hitting its Gulf neighbors, even hitting countries as far away as Turkey and Azerbaijan is absolutely backfiring.
The day after the UN Security Council approved an anti-Iran resolution.
All of the GCC countries, led by Bahrain, uniformly and publicly denounced Iran.
Iran has bombed 2 oil tankers today off the Iraq coast and other cargo ships in the region and set fire to a fuel storage site in Oman. So there is a big stock market sell-off right now, and oil prices are spiking up another 7%. President Trump just posted on Truth Social, when those oil prices rise, we make a lot of money. But a far greater interest and importance is stopping an evil empire, Iran, from having nuclear weapons and destroying the Middle East. The president told reporters last night.
Most people say it's already been won. It's just a question of when. When do we stop?
America's listening to Fox News.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
What's left of the small town? Skies are sunny. It's 35 here in downtown, a high close to 50 coming this afternoon. I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending now at 10:02. Restoration efforts underway in Lake Village, Indiana. That's in Newton County after an EF3 tornado caused significant damage to buildings and homes there, also leaving an elderly couple dead. 89-year-old Edward Kozlowski and his wife Arlene were found inside their home. That twister was one of 3 total that the National Weather Service confirmed to have landed in northwest Indiana Tuesday.
The house behind us got hit really bad. The walls were ripped off, siding. It's horrible. There's buildings ripped up, cars are damaged.
That man speaking to Fox Weather. The storm destroyed over 100 buildings, including a gas station, and also injured at least 10 other people. Energy provider NIPSCO is working to restore power to the over 11,000 homes affected by the storm in that area. The other 2 tornadoes were in EF1 and 2 in Stark and Jasper counties. Strong winds are coming back to the state on Friday. Forecaster Jason Puma from the National Weather Service in Indy has more.
We will have winds coming out of the southwest tomorrow around 20 miles an hour, with gusts as high as around 45 miles an hour.
A slightly warmer Friday compared to today. Puma says the high is about 56 for that day. The next best chance for rain on Sunday, with a possibility of thunderstorms then too. The Miami County coroner is ruling the death of an ICE detainee at Miami Correctional Facility in Indiana as natural. John Boyer cited a few natural causes. ICE has not provided any other information about the investigation into the death of Lorth Sim. A new bipartisan bill in D.C. is aiming to put mental health resources directly into the hands of students. Johnette Cruz reports.
Indiana Senator Jim Banks and Minnesota Senator Tina Smith have introduced the Raising Awareness for Youth Suicide Prevention Act. It would require middle and high schools to print the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline on student ID cards. Senator Banks says with suicide now the leading cause of death for those under 21, the bill is a common sense way to close gaps in the safety net. Similar laws already in place in Indiana have seen crisis calls jump over by 30% in just 1 year. Johnette Cruz, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
Northwestern is moving on to face Purdue in the next round of the Big Ten tournament after they beat IU last night pretty handily, 74-61. Boilers coach Matt Painter says the tournament is a great way for his team to now break out of a slump.
I like the Big Ten tournament. You figure out who you're going to play, or you figure out who you're going to play from a winner. And now you sit and play that waiting game, and you got to get ready real quick.
Tonight's tip-off between Purdue and Northwestern from Chicago is set for 6:30 Eastern. With their loss, the season may be over for the Hoosiers, as they are considered by many bracketologists as one of the teams just on the outside looking in. And a season-ending loss likely, too, for the Butler Bulldogs. They are out of the Big East tournament after falling to Providence at Madison Square Garden last night, 91-81. I'm Jarrett Lewis, on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
Look at you sitting there all stuck in traffic and paying more because of State Senator Greg Walker. That's because in the state Senate, Greg Walker voted to raise our gas tax. You believe that? And Greg Walker opposed President Trump's plan to remove liberal Democrats from Congress. That could mean more road funding for New York, not Indiana. So next time you're stuck in traffic, think about this. Greg Walker voted for higher gas taxes and opposed President Trump's policies. Are those the kind of conservative values we want in the state Senate? Yeah, I didn't think so. President Trump calls Greg Walker a rhino and a loser. And he's right. We don't have to be stuck with Rhino Greg Walker. Call Greg Walker at 317-232-9400. Tell him to support lower gas taxes and President Trump's agenda. Paid for by Hoosier Leadership for America.
Good morning, it is Casey and Jim. It's 93 WIBC, and joining us on the WIBC hotline, we've got the best State House reporter in all of the land, Nikki Kelly from Indiana Capitol Chronicle. Good morning, Nikki.
Morning.
Let's talk about these toll roads, Indiana application details. And, okay, they're saying that the tolling could help fund improvements, right? Any word on what kind of revenue anybody's expecting from this and how certain they are on their projections?
I mean, I think the projections are pretty simple. Obviously, state highways do regular traffic counts. So I think the projections should be solid. They didn't actually put in the application how much overall revenue would come in. I mean, it's obviously in the billions. What they put in is kind of the net amount that would be available every year for them to do improvements with. And that was looking at like $400 million a year. And basically, they've got this long plan to rebuild and turn into I-70 into 6 lanes across the entire state. And that would cost, I think, $6.7 billion over an 8 to 10 year period. And so it would all be financed through toll revenue.
Yeah.
Hey, Nikki, so as a taxpayer, I know a lot of people are frustrated because here we've got the 5th highest gas tax in the nation, and yet the perception is our roads are absolutely terrible. So now we're talking about a toll road being instituted, billions of dollars being raised from our dollars paying for those tolls. It kind of gives me the sense that this is just throwing more money after a problem and maybe not even getting a good quality of service from that. Is anybody asking that question of the lawmakers in this process?
Yeah, I mean, I think Indiana is no different than any other state right now struggling with road needs. Obviously, gas taxes are bringing in fewer dollars because of efficiency, which is great for us as consumers, but also means we're paying less gas tax than we used to. So then they hike the gas tax, right, to try to keep the revenue steady. And the big thing is, ever since COVID, the cost to do anything on a road has, skyrocketed. So where they used to be able to spend X amount of dollars to fix a road, it's, 3 times that now. And so we aren't any different than any state in that term of things. And the reason we have kind of such a high gas tax is we also put we put our sales tax on gasoline purchases, which not very many states do. Now, that small bit of it does not go to roads. That goes to the general fund as all sales taxes do. So it's complicated. I get why people are confused and frustrated. And the tolling thing just adds a whole new layer.
Yeah, Nikki, but we are different. We've got the 5th highest gas tax in the nation. So we are different than 45 other states. Are other states funding their roads through other mechanisms and we're only doing it through the gas tax?
I mean, some other states have toll roads too, obviously. This program that we're applying under is not a sure thing at all. The federal government has only approved this, I don't know, maybe a handful of times, if that. The general thought process in previous administrations has been, we already paid to build those roads. We don't think people should have to pay again. Although by adding the lanes, it would become basically a new road, and that's sort of the angle that the state's trying to take.
You mentioned it still has to get the federal government approval. What are some of the hurdles that need to happen before that clears?
Yeah, I mean, that's up to the federal government. This is just all in their wheelhouse, and they have indicated there aren't any specific rules about when they would have to make a decision or anything like that. So we could be waiting quite a while to see, or it could also be one of those, I'm not sure if they'll outright deny it or just not act on it. I mean, it's not going to be a popular thing for either Braun or Trump to authorize if they do it.
I'm curious, has anybody raised any concerns in local communities about drivers just diverting around onto smaller roads to avoid I-70? Is anybody talking about that?
Yeah, we're working on a story for that about next week, and there is a mention, sort of a glossed over mention in the application. That certainly will happen. I think there's some concern about people diverting to US 40 especially, and so that would obviously cause major problems for locals and break down those roads.
Nikki Kelly from Indiana Capitol Chronicle is joining us. Let's change directions and talk about how the Indiana AG is pushing back against this effort to halt this student ID voting ban. I'm curious if you know how many Indiana college students would be affected by the ID rule in 2026.
Yeah, we don't know. I don't know that there's any way to find that out because, some vote here, some don't. And some might have a state ID that they would use and some don't. So I don't think there's a number out there. But obviously, I think it's fair to say that, a fair number of students have been using their student ID to vote for years. And the irony of the change that the lawmakers made is the law states out like any ID having these things, and it has like 2 or 3 things, a photo ID, an expiration date issued by, certain things, count. But so even though these IDs have counted under that law, they carved out and said, nope, we're not going to take those anymore.
Hey, Nikki, I find it interesting what you said right there about how we don't know how many students are using these. Is that something that's not recorded at the time of voting? They just look at your ID and then is there not some sort of tracking as to what ID is used?
I don't know for sure if it tracks the type of ID or if it just, marks off that you showed ID. That would be something. It might depend per county and what election software they have.
Okay, so talking about voting, lots of Indiana officials, they're linking up with Turning Point USA. I'm wondering if there's been some concerns about involving political advocacy groups and voting.
Yeah, I mean, some people reached out to us for sure. Turning Point USA is, I think legitimately synonymous with the Republican Party and conservative values, and that's what they push. And so there is a concern about using a state office or state resources to pair with that for a voter registration drive, trying to just make sure that is fair. And if a similar group would come to the state who's more progressive leaning, are they also going to partner with them? And, I think those are fair questions.
Yeah, Nikki, I agree. Those are totally fair questions. And for those that might be opposed to this deal that the Secretary of State's office has with Turning Point USA, is there anything that can be done about it? I mean, is there any mechanism that the detractors on this situation have? Is there any mechanism for them to leverage this to maybe put a stop to it?
I mean, I think you could, maybe file a complaint with the Inspector General and the Ethics Commission to see if they're breaking any rules, or as usual in life nowadays, you could file a lawsuit, I guess. But and you have to then be arguing, I guess, that state dollars are going to, basically aid a political party or even a religion, I guess.
So I guess the working theory would then be the Secretary of State has the discretion to use voter registration funds or funds to drive voters' registrations in any way they want to. Is that the way it's kind of viewed?
I mean, that's the way Secretary of State believes it, but I think some organizations are concerned that if you're prioritizing or favoring one side or the other, that's a concern to use state resources for that.
That was a great answer, Nikki. That's the way the Secretary of State views it. Very nicely done.
Yeah, and speaking of the Secretary of State, you guys dropping a story about Diego Morales and how much he's spending on providing free vehicle reports. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we posted that story this morning. Last year, the office announced this deal with Experian where they're going to offer Hoosiers these free vehicle reports. Obviously, they're not free to the state. But what has happened is that the way the contract is set up, it requires a minimum payment for 10,000 of those reports a month at like $2.38 a pop. So the problem is no one's asking for the reports. So we're paying. Yeah.
Wow.
So only about 2,000 Hoosiers have asked for the reports over an 8-month period. So when you do the math, we're paying like $155 per report right now. And they just extended the contract for another year. They did lower the cost a bit, but still well above. So we're basically paying for reports that don't exist.
Hold on, Nikki. Can you run through those numbers again? Because I want to make sure I heard them right. We're paying essentially for a minimum of 10,000 reports a month. And
Correct.
over 8 months, that'd mean we paid for 80,000 reports, but over an 8-month period, only 2,000 people used the service.
Yeah, the first couple months there was no minimum, and then after that there was the $10,000 minimum. So yeah, when you add it all up, we've paid $333,000 so far, and 2,150 Hoosiers have asked for a report. And so you just do the math. That ends up being $155 a report. Obviously, you can go online and get the same report for like $30. So that's a problem. They did, like I said, extend. They signed a new contract that basically is for another year. They have dropped that down from 10,000 a month to like 8,500. But still, I mean, we're nowhere near that. So, you know, we're paying a lot of money to Experian, taxpayer money. Now, the Secretary of State's office points out that this money is from the Auto Dealer Services Division, and it's, you know, fines and fees, and it's not, quote, an appropriation from the general fund. Obviously, I think most taxpayers would see that as the same. I mean, that money could go to something else, you know, that, you know, could pay a salary or something that we're paying through the general appropriation. So, you know, it's all fungible.
That is the most government thing I've ever heard. Hey, here's something that a consumer
Nobody's
could pay,
using.
something that a consumer could pay $30 for in the free marketplace to get that report. But if I want to get my free version from the government pays 5 times that for the same product. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just blown away by those numbers, Nikki. Thank you for having that. That's amazing.
All right. Finally, I want to talk about your big win. And this involves the public records fight that went to court. You wanted some records, and you got them. Congratulations.
We did. We'll see if the win sustains. I mean, in the end, we asked for cost information on how much money the state was spending on pentobarbital for renewed executions. They denied. We sued. They did give us the cost and have been giving us the cost since then. And the judge did agree with us. Now, the state, this gets into the legal weeds on what summary judgment is, but because we were granted summary judgment, our lawyers are allowed to get fees. So the state still has some time, a couple weeks left, I think, to decide whether they will appeal that or not. But at least, you know, the money, that information is out there. I don't think you should ever have to go to court to fight for what your state government is spending on.
Yeah, exactly. It's a win for transparency, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nikki, is there any penalty to the state other than having to give up the information? Or is it just maybe they might have to pay your fees? Because if I'm the state and there's no penalty for me losing in court other than I have to give you the information I had to give you all along, talk to me about that.
Yeah, there aren't like fines or anything like that. The only real penalty is A, they have to give up the information, and B, they have to pay the other side's legal fees. So basically, if someone wants to sue, and you got to remember, a citizen can sue, they basically take that, you know, financial burden on in hopes of getting the win.
Well, we appreciate everything you're doing over there at Indiana Capitol Chronicle. Nikki Kelly, thank you for joining us this morning.
All right. Have a good day, guys.
Yeah, you too. It's 93 WIBC.
Day 13 of Operation Epic Fury.
93 WIBC.
Release of 400 million barrels of oil from worldwide reserves.
What happens next
which will substantially reduce the oil prices.
happens here.
Oil prices are rising again this morning, up almost 4%.
Stay in the know
Hezbollah overnight got more directly involved in this war.
while you're on the go.
Iran aspires to conduct a surprise drone strike off the coast of California.
Certainly need to be thinking about increased frequency and severe weather as we go through the spring.
On air, online, and on Alexa.
Are you within 5 years of filing for Social Security? You know, when you file impacts more than your benefits check. It could also impact your taxes, IRA, and 401k withdrawals, spousal benefits, and your Medicare premiums. Learn the best time for you to file for your benefits with a free customized Social Security analysis from Bill Demery, your retirement guy in Indy. This analysis pinpoints exactly how you could get the most out of your benefits while considering the impact on your taxes, IRA, and 401k withdrawals, spousal benefits, and more. Go to yourretirementguy.com to schedule that analysis.
And it's absolutely free. If you've saved more than $200,000 and have not yet filed for Social Security, schedule that free analysis right now by calling 317-648-5120. 317-648-5120 or go to yourretirementguy.com.
The prom dress and tux have been chosen, but your look isn't complete without fresh floral accents. Gillespie Florists can help you add a one-of-a-kind touch with their custom prom bar. Choose every element of your prom flowers to create a wearable masterpiece that's as elegant and unique as you. And if the full custom thing isn't really your thing, they've also got easy custom kits. You select your kit, and they add the fresh blooms. Be unforgettable with Gillespie Florists on West 10th Street or get started at GillespieFlorists.com.
Were you born from 1945 to 1965? People born during these years are 5 times more likely to have hepatitis C, but most people don't know they are infected. So even if you try to eat right, exercise, and take care of yourself, you can still have hepatitis C, a serious liver disease that often has no symptoms. In fact, people can live with hepatitis C for decades without feeling or looking sick. But over time, hepatitis C can cause serious health problems, including liver damage, liver failure, or even liver cancer. Getting tested is the only way to know if you're infected with hepatitis C. That's why the CDC recommends everyone born from 1945 to 1965 get a blood test for hepatitis C. Treatments are available that can cure this disease. So talk to your doctor about getting tested. It could save your life. A message from the CDC.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
The team's looking good this season.
I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Ever since I turned 40, I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think it could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
I was feeling the same way. After 40, the body has less testosterone, and men lose their edge. That's why I take Nugenix Total T2.
That's the testosterone booster, right?
Yes, but Total T2 is their brand new formula that skyrockets nitric oxide levels in as little as 3 hours. Since I started taking it, I've been lifting like when we played for Coach Carter. My energy is way up, and it even spiced up things between me and the missus.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles?
Yep, just send a text.
Text RULE to 215215 for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T2, the next generation testosterone booster. Text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text RULE to 215215. That's RULE to 215215.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This hour is powered by Swain Co., Indy's most trusted crawl space and basement contractor.
Putting your money where your tweets are sounds convenient, but mixing finance and social media also means risk. When finance gets social, you got to watch out for security, regulation, and whether users really trust it with their money. You've got Elon Musk, who made an announcement about X Money. It's a new digital payment and financial service system built in to the X platform. That sounds kind of scary to me.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't want your credit card information being part of your Twitter X account.
Yeah.
I get that. This is something Elon has wanted to do for a long time, pretty much ever since he sold PayPal. So keep in mind, if you weren't aware, Elon Musk was one of the original founders and workers at PayPal before they went. Actually, he was part of the original X, but you get what I'm saying. He was part of that group of PayPal. And he's wanted to get back into kind of the money and finance thing. So think of this as something similar to PayPal or Venmo or Cash App. You'll be able to send money to friends via the X platform. But what I think the real game changer here is you'll be able to purchase items right there on the platform. So what you'll see likely going forward is you'll see a lot more shopping happening on Twitter. So people put up stores on Twitter, and then I can use my X money, which is what they're calling it, to just make that purchase right there within the Twitter platform and not have to leave or have a pop-up come up or have to log into my credit card or my bank account to make the payment.
Yep, it's designed to let you to send and receive money, store funds in your digital wallet there, also manage payments directly inside the X app. And Musk, his goal is to turn X into an everything app. A single platform for everything, messaging, social networking, payments, and potentially even more financial tools. He has early public access set to begin next month. And they're transitioning from making it a testing role model into a real world use model. They've partnered with Visa to secure these licenses in a lot of U.S. states, and that is to enable regulated peer-to-peer payments and transfers. The whole thing sounds absolutely scary to me, though, because when I think of X, I think of, cat turd and what's on his mind.
And people's accounts getting hacked and, crazy AI videos showing, Iran blowing up U.S. aircraft carriers, which clearly never happened. I think there's certainly, go into this cautiously, but this is where social media is moving, and TikTok has shown us the path on this. The TikTok shop has been around for a couple of years now, and that is a massive revenue generator, not only for TikTok, the app itself, but also content creators on TikTok. You see,
because they just say link below.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, hey, look at this awesome cheese grater and how I grate cheese so much easier now. My life is wonderful. Click this link to purchase this. And then the content creator gets a cut of the purchase. That is what you're going to start seeing on X more and more. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if other social media platforms start going in this direction.
Like Facebook and Instagram.
Social shopping is what it's called. And that's a word. And TikTok has been massively successful with it. And so it's no surprise that Elon wants to move in this direction. But I'm still amazed every time I think about all that Elon has done with Twitter since he bought it in 2022. Keep in mind, as soon as he bought it in 2022, fired like 80 to 90% of the staff, which, by the way, Twitter was never making a regular profit before that. One quarter they'd have a profit, and the next quarter they'd have this huge loss. So he cut like 80 to 90% of the staff, but then so much innovation. I mean, Twitter really hadn't changed that much in the years before Elon Musk buys it. Elon buys it. So many things change. Development, the pay model got instituted, and a lot of people had a lot of problems with that, but now it's just kind of become commonplace for a lot of things. He's really done a lot of innovation on that app in a short period of time, and this is what's next for Twitter.
A lot of people look at X as more of a news platform delivery, and I'm wondering, you've got influencers who are now going to be peddling products and maybe an X shop like TikTok. Is it going to completely change the app and how people view it? People view it as a news source.
Well, it certainly changed the way TikTok is used, and the type of content that's created around TikTok is now so much TikTok content is around
shopping,
TikTok shop and social shopping. So it's certainly going to move into there. I think this is probably going to be a niche area that'll be cut out that people will use Twitter for. But like you're right, I think the vast majority of people will still use Twitter as kind of a news feed. Hey, I want to know what's happening in the world right now, and that's what I use Twitter for.
You still haven't made that jump, huh? You just called it Twitter. How long do you give it?
Forever. By the way,
will it ever be X?
This is America. I still call it the Sears Tower. I'm never going to call it Willis Tower. No, when you name something and it gets ingrained in our culture and it becomes iconic, don't just try changing the name and expect me to go along with it. No, it's still Twitter and it's still the Sears Tower to me.
It's going to take a minute. You're listening to 93 WIBC.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Targeting the country's Navy and leadership. I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending now at 10:30. The U.S. and Israel continuing to launch strikes against Iran. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Michael Waltz, says President Trump is no longer going to kick the can down the road in terms of dealing with the Iranian regime, adding he intends to end the conflict. Ambassador Waltz told Fox America's Newsroom that the U.S. has made significant progress in terms of completing their military objectives.
Command and control decimated, 3 layers down. Ballistic missile, both production and current. We've seen a 92% drop off. If you look at their nuclear program, not only their enrichment is obliterated, we're hitting other key aspects of it as well.
It comes as Iran's new supreme leader says they will continue to launch strikes against neighboring Gulf countries and ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Oil prices are spiking as multiple countries coordinate releases from their emergency reserves in order to head off inflation. The U.S. is starting to tap into strategic oil reserves. The Arizona sheriff leading the Nancy Guthrie case has been hit with an unrelated $1 million lawsuit.
An inmate in the Pima County Jail filing a federal lawsuit against Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos and the entire department. Inmate Christopher Marks accusing the sheriff's office of endangering his life when he was apprehended, that a deputy exposed him to COVID-19 via another inmate. Even though Mark says he never got COVID-19, he's seeking $1.35 million in damages, claiming the Pima County Sheriff's Office and Nanos violated his rights. The department not commenting on the suit.
Fox's Jeff Manasso reporting a worker shortage is blamed for the temporary closure of checkpoints at the main airport in Philadelphia. There was also a report out this week that a few TSA agents have left the Indianapolis airport as the partial government shutdown rolls on. And one of the largest private collections of rock and roll and pop culture memorabilia ever assembled is going on the auction block today in New York, belonging to the late Colts owner Jim Irsay. I'm Jarrett Lewis on the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
State Senator Jim Buck is 80 years old, and decades in politics and government have changed him. Maybe once he voted like a conservative, but he's changed. How else can you explain why Senator Buck voted with liberal Democrats in Indianapolis to oppose President Trump's agenda on congressional redistricting? Or why Jim Buck voted to let China own Hoosier farmland, putting Hoosier families at risk? Or why Jim Buck voted to raise our gas tax, increasing your pain at the pump, against Trump, letting China own our land, increasing the gas tax. It's a pathetic and sad pattern. A sign of a politician who's been in office too long. Call State Senator Jim Buck at 317-232-9400. Tell him 32 years in politics and government is enough. Support Trump's policies or retire already. Paid for by Hoosier Leadership for America.
The spring sale is in bloom at Scandinavian Designs. For a limited time, enjoy huge savings on select modern furniture and decor, including pieces for your living room, bedroom, dining room, and beyond. This is your chance to refresh a favorite space or dream up an entirely new look. Stop by one of our local showrooms or shop online at ScandinavianDesigns.com. Scandinavian Designs. We make it simple. You make it home.
Hey, Wings Etc. fans, March 9th through 15th is Wings Schooner Madness. We're rolling back prices on award-winning wings and big ice-cold schooners. And we're rolling out the red carpet for you and your best buds to stop in, get crazy good deals, and get your mind right for the big dance bracketology that's just around the corner. Just 69 cents for wings and $5.50 for domestic schooners. Dine in only. For March 9th to 15th, get great deals during Wings Schooner Madness only at Wings Etc.
Wings Etc. Grill and Pub with 15 Central Indiana locations. Online at wingsetc.com.
You love spring and indies, so don't spend it painting. Do what your neighbor Mike did. He called Rhino Shield.
Our home is basically a contemporary, and we just started noticing that the paint was just fading and just looked like garbage. We had received a postcard from Rhino Shield, and we decided to take a look at it.
Rhino Shield's formulated for our specific climate here in Indiana.
The process with Rhino Shield and their crew, they were just very conscientious. We had problems in the past with painters. They leave debris and everything. Well, we didn't have that with Rhino Shield.
Way better than paint, backed by a 25-year warranty. Right now, get the guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield for 15% off the regular price.
The thing about Rhino Shield, the heat gain has been reduced colors, and we save $70 a month. You don't hear that about any type of paint.
Here's Rhino Shield's Shane Smith.
This offer is limited, so call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint.
Don't vinyl.
Go Rhino!
Paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
As student athletes, we want to shine a light on the true team players of every high school sports team, our parents.
Thank you for driving us to practice and cleaning our uniforms.
For selling concessions and hosting team dinners.
For making signs and painting your faces.
For cheering for our team, rain or shine, snow or heat, at home or on the road.
For the time, money, and energy you spent supporting us all season long.
Thank you for always being there for us.
And for everything you do to help us grow through high school sports.
You make it possible for us to play the sports we love, and we will always be grateful.
Mom, Dad, we just want to say
thank you.
I'm IHSA Commissioner Paul Neidig. Thank you to all the family members, friends, and fans who champion our student athletes by buying tickets to your high school's athletic events. This is showing our gratitude. This is supporting education-based athletics. This is your IHSAA.
Are you going to stand there with a straight face and act like you don't have mold in your crawl space? Call Swanco, 317-407-1868, SwancoLLC.com.
Tune in Saturdays 9 to 1 for the Home and Garden Show for advice and fun, brought to you by Michaelis. Water, storms, fire, and wet basements. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it.
Well, if you can't explain why you're at war, don't be surprised when the public doesn't want to back it. You got to have clear goals, honest communication. That goes a long way towards building support. It's called trust. You can't just slap something together and then expect people to just to go along with it. There's new polling that is out, and it is how Americans feel about the U.S. military action, the little incursion, the war against Iran, and it's pretty much divided along party lines. And this is some polling that was conducted since it began. And there is some high opposition to what is going on. There's a Quinnipiac poll. It says 53% of Americans oppose U.S. strikes in Iran. Only 40% support it. Many Americans feel the war has made the U.S. less safe rather than safer, especially when you have outlets like ABC News putting out stories saying that there's this drone threat in California. That's not going to make you feel safer. A majority believe that the Trump administration has not clearly explained the goals for the conflict. And then you have strong opposition, about 75% of people against sending U.S. ground troops to Iran. And that is even among Republicans.
Yeah, whenever you talk about sending in ground troops, it completely changes the equation as you evaluate something like this. And you're right, does fall mostly along party lines, although with the vast majority, or at least around about a third of people in this country identifying as independent now, and the fact that the overall support is below 50%, that means that independents oppose this war more so than they approve it. So that's one interesting factor in all of this. But it goes back to what I've said a lot. If you just win, all of a sudden everything gets wiped away and people end up supporting it. So whether or not, the American people support this military action right now isn't nearly as important as to 6 months or 12 months from now and how the outcome ended up being. And that will really determine whether or not this is something that is kind of a noose or an anchor around Trump's neck going forward, or something that he can use and leverage going forward.
A lot of voters still worrying more about economic costs like higher gas prices. And obviously the conflict is just playing into that concern. But you mentioned something, if you just win, it makes everything better. But that's the question. What does success look like? Is it regime change? Is it them completely having zero military? Is it oil prices going down? Is it the United States and allies having complete control of the Middle East? What is the objective? And I think that's the issue, why a lot of people are just having a hard time with this, because it has not been explained clearly, and it changes. It vacillates all the time.
Yeah, and I think what Donald Trump is trying to do here, and right or wrong, this is just the way I'm kind of analyzing the way he's going about this. I think he's listed off a ton of things that he wants to accomplish.
It'll do this, and this.
We got 5, 6, 7 different things, but whether or not ultimately the American people are comfortable with this, or 6 or 12 months from now, is when this is over, Donald Trump is going to pick one or two things that we got accomplished and try and sell that to the American people.
And that'll be the
as
win.
Well, if the American people are buying what he's selling. So that's what he's got to do. Whenever this is over, whether it's in 2 days or 2 months or 2 years, he's going to come to the American people and say, look, I did this, and isn't that amazing? And look how fantastic and wonderful I am. And that's going to be the moment of truth, because the American people at that point in time are either going to buy it or they're not going to buy it. And that's going to go a long way as to what else Donald Trump can accomplish during the rest of his term as being president.
It'll be a lot easier to buy anything, he says, if things were just less expensive, if things cost less money and you weren't feeling it all the time. Oh, okay, yeah, I get it. That was worth it. But if prices don't come down or wages don't go up, one or the other, it doesn't matter what he says, because you're not going to view it as a win if you can't afford your life.
Yeah, that's certainly going to make it harder. So how is this a war, affecting American people or people in this country on a day-to-day basis? So right now, we've got the price of gas going up, and it's gone up a lot in the last 10 days, and that's going to affect the American people.
You've got the cost of fertilizer going up, and that's affecting a lot of farmers.
Well, as we know, that's a great point, but as we know, as the cost of gas goes up, the cost of everything goes up, because everything that you can see when you look around wherever you are right now, everything you see at one point in time was on a truck. And if diesel fuel is more expensive, it's going to be more expensive to ship that around the country and get it to you when you purchase it as a consumer. So that's a big one. But the other big one here, and we're not talking about it a whole lot, although we're talking about it more than we did when the military action started, and that is the potential threat of terrorism and lone wolves on our American soil. And we had the incident in Austin. Okay, that was the first weekend. Second weekend, we had the incident that happened in New York City with those guys that had those improvised explosive devices. And now we've got the ABC News story about how the FBI is telling people in California that to be on alert for a potential drone strike. Those are the sorts of things that do affect Americans every day, because it makes them concerned about their safety in their everyday life here on American soil. Inflation, gas prices, our safety here on American soil, those are his biggest challenges to get support for the war in his favor right now.
There was a new report that came out that from the Pentagon, and it says about 140 U.S. service members have been wounded in roughly 10 days during the war with Iran, far more than was initially disclosed. So you can't at this point call it a limited operation or a little incursion when you look at casualty numbers. 140 wounded in 10 days, that's not trivial. Even if they are mostly minor injuries, that's still a real toll on real people and families.
Yeah, and that is the headline here, in my opinion. It is the fact that of those 140 that have been wounded, 108 are already back on duty. So the injuries were fairly minor, not to minimize them. But I do give the Trump administration a little leeway on this, because there's a lot of people that are beating them up in the media and on social media and saying, hey, 140? Where did that number come from? Last we were told it was like 18 or 20 after the first weekend, and now you're telling us here a week and a half later that we've got 140 U.S. personnel injured. Some media members are claiming that they're, not releasing this in a timely manner. But I will say the president's first responsibility is to make sure that we don't give information publicly that our enemies can be used against us. So there is a valid reason to kind of delay or keep this information from making it out to the public, because the enemy can use it to their advantage. We don't want to give them information that they don't have that then they can potentially use against us to further prosecute this war.
So Marco Rubio has been seen wearing some big shoes. They're so big, in fact, they don't really fit him. They have been gifted to him from Donald Trump. He's been giving out pairs of $145 dress shoes to people in his administration and some other political figures. And he's been guessing, allegedly, on these people's shoe sizes and just orders them their shoes. And some of these people, like Marco Rubio, perhaps, are afraid not to wear them. So they're wearing shoes that don't fit.
You told me about this yesterday, and you're like, yeah, Marco Rubio's wearing clown shoes, and Trump gave them to him, but he has to wear them, and they don't. I'm like, what are you talking about? And you show me the picture, and I'm like, oh, yeah, those shoes don't fit. I mean, it's not like just a little bit. When you see the photograph, it's clear that they don't fit. And what I find so funny about this, so many things are funny, but one of them is this goes back to 2016 and Trump's first run for president when he called Marco Rubio Little Marco. And it's like proving out again in front of us 10 years later when Trump does think that apparently Marco Rubio's shoe size is a lot bigger than what it actually is. But can you imagine? I mean, apply this to like your job and your corporate job that you've got, and your boss gives you something, and your boss, the thing that they prioritize more than anything is loyalty, and you know how your boss is from a personality standpoint, and so then you're pressured to wear this thing that you would prefer not to wear so your boss doesn't get mad at you.
Yeah, well, it's one thing to build unity, but it's another when you make your people look silly. I mean, I get it. It's you're trying to have some loyalty and image and all of that, but come on, man. Why are you guessing at the size? Why don't you just ask?
Right, exactly. And it's not like Trump has to be the one to go to Marco Rubio and be like, hey, what's your shoe size?
Right.
They both got massive staffs that I'm sure have all of their specs and information on everything in their lives entirely. You just got to send a staffer to talk to one of Rubio's staffers and be like, hey, what's the Secretary of State's shoe size? It seems like a pretty simple solution, but instead we've got the Secretary of State walking around literally in clown shoes.
In clown shoes. He can't even, his shoes are so big he can't even fill them himself. I mean, at the end of the day, though, politics, it's not about who's wearing what, even if they are really nice $145 dress shoes. Public service needs to be judged on results, not your footwear.
What if like the station gave you like some sort of swag or something like that, like a station sweatshirt or a t-shirt?
That's happened before.
That was dramatic, that was very ill-fitting.
What happens to it? Well, it stays in the drawer. It never gets worn.
But what if you're getting pressure from the company to, hey, where's that WIBC sweatshirt that we spent such good money on that I'd like to see you wearing around these hallways?
You know me. You know what I would say.
Station. What?
You want me to wear it? Why don't you get one that fits me? Ask me my size. Go with the company that has a better cut.
Do you think that's something that the cabinet members can say to Donald Trump without reproduction? Hey, Trump, how about next time you do something nice for me, you rub two brain cells together and get the right size, dude. No, I'm not wearing your shoe.
You're going to make me wear a uniform. At least get me one that fits.
I'm gonna bet challenging Trump on that's not going to go over
Probably
very
not so
well.
good.
I bet you have a better relationship with your boss here than Marco Rubio has with his boss.
Yeah, there's a big difference between shoes from Trump and an ill-fitting boxy T-shirt from my boss that says WIBC on it. I mean, you're talking hundreds of dollars difference too.
That's part of it, but I think it's the culture under which each of you work. I think Marco Rubio works under a different culture than what you work under here at WIBC. And thank goodness for you. It's a little bit more casual and a little bit more relaxed. And,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I couldn't make it out there in the real world. Okay. Let's talk about what's going on with Jim.
Are you saying that that's what's keeping you from a cabinet level position in the
Yes.
Trump administration?
That's
The only thing. You know what? Sure, I could be the new Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, but I'm not wearing any of Trump's ill-fitting footwear.
That's right. That's what's holding me back.
That sounds legit.
Yeah. You're listening to 93 WIBC.
Hey, what's going on? It's Hammer from the Hammer and Nigel show. And I'm not going to lie to you. I needed help. I got a bald spot in the back of my head, and it's embarrassing. I see it when I'm on television. I see it when I'm on the YouTube channel. So I decided to reach out for help. And my friends at We Grow Hair Indie decided to help me out here. These guys are the absolute best. I was a little leery about it. I could not have a procedure that, one, hurt, or two, left me looking like I'd been scalped. But after I talked with Darren and the entire team at We Grow Hair Indie, they told me their state-of-the-art technology, the progress made in hair growth, it's going to be okay. If I can do this, you guys can do this. Contact the team at We Grow Hair Indie, 317-522-2995. That's 522-2995. Get that free evaluation. It's free. You can also go online to WeGrowHairIndie.com. Contact them today and do this with me. WeGrowHairIndie.com.
Hey, it's Tyrese Halliburton. I've met some incredible people right here in Indiana, all waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. Different backgrounds, different stories, but they all had one thing in common: hope. Saying yes to organ donation provides that hope. One organ donor can save up to 8 lives. That's 8 families who get more time together. You have the power to save lives. So next time you're at the BMV, or even right now at donatelifeindiana.org, say yes to organ donation.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the 3rd time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. Mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
Prepare to amaze guests at your wedding with flowers from Gillespie Florists. Enjoy a free private wedding consultation led by an experienced Gillespie specialist. Learn arrangements for your bridal party, ceremony, reception, from cakes to delivery, and on-site design services from natural to the spectacular. Call Gillespie Florists at 273-1100. Shop Gillespie online at GillespieFlorist.com or visit Gillespie at 10th and Raceway Road. Gillespie Florists, for all the flowers in your life.
I move mountains for a living. Literally. That means I don't carry hand lotion, and when it comes to serious heartburn, I don't mess around with anything but Rolaids. Rolaids' dual-active formula has calcium carbonate and magnesium hydroxide that relieves heartburn fast. Yeah, you heard right. 2 actives for that powerful relief. And the best part? The roll fits right here in my pocket, so I can get back to moving mountains.
Rolaid spells powerful relief. Read each label. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
The Attorney General's office wants to put your money back in your pocket. Visit indianaunclaimed.gov and search for yourself, your loved ones, or your business. It's fast, easy, and free.
Relive a classic on the big screen. Stand By Me, the film and its stars 40 years later, comes to Old National Center on Saturday, June 13th. See the movie and hear from Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell, and Will Wheaton live on stage. Get your tickets now at WIBC.com.
Good morning, it is Casey and Jim. It's 93 WIBC, and let's do it. It is time for the best audio of the day, and this is presented to you by senior citizens in Minnesota. They want their nursing homes to allow happy hour without liquor licenses.
Friends, and I love happy hour, just like many of you do, I am sure. Just because we are older and live in an assisted living doesn't mean that we should have fewer freedoms than anyone else. Allowing our facility to coordinate this happy hour affords us and our families the peace of mind that we can enjoy life but not be out slipping on the ice to stop and get our box of wine. This amendment is simply putting into law what many people assume is already allowed. Happy hour at the place where we call home.
My only regret is that we might not get invited to one of these happy hours if it gets passed.
There's an age threshold.
I see how it is.
So this is about a new Minnesota bill, and it would allow nursing homes to host happy hours without a liquor license. I was not aware that they needed a liquor license to be able to do this.
Look, you don't get in the way of senior citizens and their booze. I mean, I think I've lived long enough to figure that one out. Your mom is in an assisted living facility.
She is, and they have happy hours all the time.
And it is a big deal.
And I don't know if they have a license or not to do this.
I'm going to assume that they do. For the purposes of this conversation, they do before you rat out your mom's assisted living section. But it's a big deal. Happy hour is a big deal, and being able to have a glass of wine or a cocktail or a beer at these assisted living and nursing homes is a really big deal. And who are you going to be? Are you going to be the lawmaker that says grandma can't have her box of wine, as she mentioned? By the way, don't think I missed that. I love that she called it a box of wine. Fantastic. Makes the story even more real. And then the other part that she said about it, too, is you don't even really think about it because this is their home. So obviously you wouldn't think about anybody needing a liquor license to have liquor in their home. but it also is a public facility too, and so I understand where the disconnect comes from, but it seems like this is a pretty law to pass in Minnesota, pretty easy law to pass in Minnesota. I'm certainly not going to be the lawmaker that sits here and says, nope, rules are rules, old lady. You're not getting your wine, even though you're living in a nursing home.
You're not having a good time. So the 65-plus population in the United States approaching 58 million, and it's got about 15,000 nursing homes in the United States with 1.2 million residents. Obviously, social isolation can be a big part of an aging population, and so having a happy hour will encourage people to engage with one another and get out of their rooms and be part of a bigger group. However, people that are objecting to this are doing so because nursing homes are among some of the most tightly regulated institutions, and that is because of medication use. You've got your fall risk and also liability lawsuits, and they say that serving alcohol or giving these nursing homes the permission to do this without a license, it's just going to elevate some of the drug interactions and the insurance costs and liability issues.
I go back, put yourself in the shoes of one of these lawmakers in Minnesota. We know the single most reliable voting bloc in the country, and it's been this way for around 100 years, are senior citizens. Nobody shows up to the polls in better strength and better numbers than senior citizens. It's a bad idea to get on the wrong side of senior citizens when it comes to the voting booth, because I mean it's kind of a lighthearted topic, and we're having some fun with it. But if those senior citizens decide that this is a big deal and something they want to get behind, you put your potential future elections at risk if you don't go along with them.
Well, it also brings up the question, are these facilities, are they simply medical institutions, or are they actual environments where people are living their lives? They're technically both.
Yeah, they absolutely are both.
Especially depending on the service that is provided. In some are memory care, some are assisted living, some are just senior living. There's all different ways that they're categorized.
Yeah, and you're right. They are absolutely both. And I think that they've got it. There's got to be some sort of creative solution here, even if they don't pass this, whether that's maybe that they the alcohol is put out, but the staff doesn't directly serve it. The residents who live there have to serve themselves, or maybe they do something where even they have to purchase the alcohol and serve it themselves. But it seems like there's some sort of creative solution around this to where they can get it done.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are in favor of it, saying let them drink and socialize. These can be very lonely and depressing places, and if you just have a happy hour at the nursing home, it just encourages socializing and honesty. However, you also have to consider that these are establishments that are beholden to the care of senior citizens and elderly people, and there's a lot of consequences and liability that goes along with that.
I'm not getting between Nana and her Canadian club. That's all. I know that for an absolute fact.
Nanny wants her glass of red wine. You better believe it. You're listening to 93 WIBC.
If you owe back taxes, listen carefully to rule number 1. Never go up against the IRS alone. They're cracking down, freezing bank accounts, garnishing paychecks, canceling passports. Even your home or business could be at risk. But here's what they don't tell you. The IRS has powerful tax relief programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. That's why smart people call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. Nobody knows these programs like the experts at Optima. Their team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $2 billion in tax debt for people just like you. The IRS is not stopping, so don't wait, and don't take them on alone. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, call Optima today for a free consultation.
Call 800-598-4799. 800-598-4799. 800-598-4799.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hear that? That's Mike. He took ZQL Pure Z's, so now he's sleeping soundly on a Sunday night. ZQL Pure Z's are fast-acting melatonin gummies with a complementary botanical blend to help Mike get the sleep he needs to wake up refreshed and ready to conquer Monday. Let's do this Monday. ZzzQuil Pure Z's. Just for sleep. Really great sleep. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed.
With 0% financing for up to 2 years, upgrading your home has never been easier. Go to bwindow.com. Trust your home to be.
Trust me. Coming up in 2 minutes from the Dugan Air Heating and Cooling Mitsubishi Electric Studios, what crews in Northwest Indiana are reporting on following Tuesday's tornadoes and severe weather. Who police arrested in connection to a woman's murder from Tuesday in Indianapolis. And the new proclamation coming from the governor that deals with Indiana students. You're listening to 93 WIBC, WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. It's 11 o'clock.
Iran will not stop fighting back. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what the new supreme leader vows in that statement that a news anchor read on state TV. They vowed not to refrain from avenging the blood of their martyrs killed by the U.S. and Israel.
He vowed to keep targeting U.S. military bases, demanding they're all immediately closed. Expel the Americans, he urged host countries. Khamenei also said closing the Strait of Hormuz, the vital oil transit route, should be used as leverage.
Fox's Jonathan Savage
threatened to open other fronts.
Mojtaba Khamenei has not been seen in public since replacing his father killed at the start of the conflict. Fox's Greg Palkot reports from Istanbul.
Just as attacks by the U.S. and Israel on Iran continue, security positions of a paramilitary group struck there, as well as the military infrastructure of the key Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. There are even reports that Israel is using drones to hit locations inside of Iran.
Now, Iran's also bombed 2 oil tankers off the Iraqi coast and other cargo ships in the region and other Gulf countries, setting a fuel storage facility on fire in Oman, leading oil prices up again today about 9%. Despite the planned release soon of 400 million barrels of oil from worldwide reserves. Brent crude back up to $100 a barrel this morning, triggering a big stock market sell-off. Energy Secretary Chris Wright just told Fox this conflict will lead to,
ultimately in the long term, a much more secure supply of energy for the world. It's worth the short-term disruption for this simply enormous long-term gain we will get.
The Iranian-backed hacking group has carried out a cyber attack, wiping out data at Stryker.
The Michigan-based company makes medical and surgical equipment used in hospitals across 150 million patients worldwide.
That's Fox's Dana Marie McNichol. The hack wiped out data in their devices. America's listening to Fox News.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Returning their damage reports. Skies are sunny. We've reached 40 this hour in the Circle City. Today's high is around 50. A wind advisory remains in effect until 5 p.m. Friday. I'm Jarrett Lewis. It's 11:02. Rescue crews continue working in Lake Village that would be in the county of Newton County after the deadly tornado tore through that area Tuesday night. Dozens of buildings and homes were damaged. Several people were hurt, and an elderly couple was found dead in their home. Lori Postma with the Lake Township Volunteer Fire Department.
We found a man inside a vehicle that trees had fallen all around him. And it's like he was protected by those trees.
The Newton County twister was confirmed to be an EF3, an EF2, and an EF1 rolled through nearby Stark and Jasper counties. As for what the rest of this week has in store.
Highs tomorrow, only around 56 degrees, a little bit warmer than today, but not too bad.
Jason Puma from the National Weather Service in Indianapolis says winds will be strong tomorrow, too. Gusts could be above 48 miles per hour at times. Rain and severe weather chances are great again on Sunday. An arrest is made in connection to a homicide case from earlier this week in Indy. IMPD says 45-year-old Travis Wolf was booked on a preliminary charge of murder for killing 51-year-old Kimberly Stewart. She was found dead in the backyard of a home on the city's west side late Tuesday night. Wolf also had an existing warrant related to a case of unlawful possession of a firearm by a serious violent felon. Turning Point USA's Club America program is expanding to Indiana. A new proclamation asks schools to support student groups that encourage free expression and discussion. Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith joined the announcement earlier today.
As a teacher myself and somebody who's been in that world, it's not easy to stand up for America sometimes in that world, and you know it. And I know there's many of you that have that have taken shots from the administrations that you sit under within your schools.
Indiana Secretary of State is also working with the Turning Point USA group to get students more involved in voting, like helping with registration at high schools or even assisting at other polling places. An NCAA tournament berth for the Indiana Hoosiers is now in serious doubt after they lost to Northwestern last night 74-61 in the Big Ten tournament. Head coach Darren DeVries says they'll want to bring in some size for next season.
We just didn't have a lot of depth there to sustain it over, the course of a 20-game league schedule. So
Purdue now gets Northwestern. The Boilers meet up with them tonight in Chicago. Tip-off is at 6:30. And St. Patrick's Day festivities are taking over downtown Indianapolis this weekend. Terry Stacy reports on one of those events.
Kevin Flynn, Athletic Club Association's Irish Citizen of the Year, says you can still register for the Shamrock Run and Walk on Saturday before the race begins at 11 from the IFD Union Hall.
We start at College Avenue and Mass Avenue. It ends up at Bottleworks, and we have a block party with that YouTube tribute band and lots of food and fun. And the Indianapolis Airport and Aer Lingus are giving away 2 free tickets to Dublin, Ireland on that direct flight from Indy.
IndyStPats.com for more. Terry Stacy, WIBC Mobile News.
And I'm Jarrett Lewis on the level, on the go, and at WIBC.com.
Look at you sitting there all stuck in traffic and paying more because of State Senator Greg Walker. That's because in the state Senate, Greg Walker voted to raise our gas tax. You believe that? And Greg Walker opposed President Trump's plan to remove liberal Democrats from Congress. That could mean more road funding for New York, not Indiana. So next time you're stuck in traffic, think about this. Greg Walker voted for higher gas taxes and opposed President Trump's policies. Are those the kind of conservative values we want in the state Senate? Yeah, I didn't think so. President Trump calls Greg Walker a rhino and a loser, and he's right. We don't have to be stuck with Rhino Greg Walker. Call Greg Walker at 317-232-9400. Tell him to support lower gas taxes and President Trump's agenda. Paid for by Hoosier Leadership for America.
How do you fix a ticking financial time bomb? Do you do it with speeches? Do you do it with an expert commission? Social Security is going to go broke in a few years. What should the lawmakers be doing? There's one woman who says that we need a Social Security Commission. Her name is Maya McGinnis, and she is the president of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. Well, that sounds like an important position. And she has argued that America needs a Social Security Commission.
Are headed towards insolvency. Social Security in particular, it's going to be insolvent in 6 years. This is an unconscionable situation that we found ourselves in, and yet the conversation still continues to be people competing not to do anything to fix the program, with some important exceptions. But I will say that the ARP, that says it focuses on protecting seniors, is one of the organizations that actively opposes any changes to fix it, and it tries to intimidate members whenever they start to talk about those changes.
Okay, so Social Security, we know, facing real financial crisis. The program's retirement trust fund, it's projected to run out of money within about 7 years unless Congress does something. And, we've heard repeated warnings and analysis, but lawmakers are just kicking this can down the road. We've heard Donald Trump say that he's, not going to let it fail. However, we're talking about the same Congress who can't even pass the SAVE Act, which 80% of people want done.
Right. Can't even get all the Republicans on board with the SAVE Act. This is, I'm not hopeful that we can solve this problem, but I know if we wanted to, we could. Here's let's start with, part of the big problem is the American people think, oh, I paid this money, that's my money, I should get it back. Yeah, that's not how it works. The Congress has been raiding the Social Security Trust Fund for generations. It's all commingled, essentially, with the rest of the budget and the rest of the finances of the federal government. And by the way, it's not your money, because if you pass away before you collect Social Security, guess what your estate gets? Zero. Absolutely nothing out of it. So it's really not your money. It's the government's taking your money to do whatever they want with, and Social Security is just one of the things they spend it on as opposed to anything else. But I think a commission, I'm not hopeful that they could fix something in this, but it's probably the only route. Because can you imagine if Donald Trump came out with a Social Security plan, Make up whatever plan you want. Don't care what the plan is. If Donald Trump came out with a Social Security plan, you better believe that every single one of the Democrats would line up on the other side of it and rail against how Donald Trump is trying to kill your grandmother. That would be the rhetoric that would come out of this. And we saw what this happened before. We were able to actually fix Social Security in the 80s. It was called the Greenspan Commission. It was pretty smart. And they basically looked at this and said, okay, there's two ways to fix this. We can either bring more money in, we do that by raising taxes, or we can spend less money, which is either raise the retirement age or reduce what the payout of Social Security is. And the smart thing that they did, they said, okay, we're going to do both, because that way we'll make sure that both sides have to give something up in this process. And so the Greenspan Commission raised the full retirement age slowly. It was incorporated over decades, the changes in the retirement age, and then they also raised the amount of taxes. And I think that that's the only way that this is going to get fixed going forward, is probably, again, slowly over time raising the full retirement age. And then I think if you remove the cap on Social Security, I think you only pay Social Security up to I think this year it's about $190,000 in earnings. So if you make more than $190,000 a year, anything after that $190K, you don't pay Social Security on. And by the way, your employer doesn't pay their portion of the Social Security on. So I think that's what you've got to do. If you truly want to fix this, you need to go at both ends. You need to find a way to increase the money coming into Social Security, and also find a way by reducing what you're paying to Social Security, and raising the retirement age would certainly do that.
Well, this woman believes that there needs to be a formal Social Security Commission, and that would bring lawmakers together to analyze and also recommend fixes. Nice job, by the way. You just offered a solution. That rarely happens. Many people just like to complain and moan about things, but never offer a solution. So props to you for that. But you're talking about putting these people together, establish a bipartisan commission, and again, even if you do that, what is going to get done?
Well,
most likely nothing.
Probably nothing. It's probably nothing. But the only way it could work is if you get, like, say, 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans who are really passionate about this project, and they come to some sort of rough outline and agreement. Well, then then those 4 Democrats are
It's not party particular.
Well, then those 4 Democrats are charged with going back to the rest of the Democrats in Congress and selling them on the fact that this is something we need to do. And then those 4 Republicans got to go to the Republicans and sell the Republicans on the fact that this is what we need to do. That's probably the only way it's going to work. But I agree with you. The likelihood of anybody being able to pull it off is next to zero.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by the way, Social Security may go insolvent on paper, but grandma's still going to get her Social Security check. Don't worry about that, because like anything else, the government will just print more money. They will print more money and cover this. I'm not saying that's a good solution. It's a terrible solution.
But it's what's going to happen.
But if nothing happens, and by the way, that's likely that nothing happens. If nothing happens, that will be the end result of that. The government will just print more money. Oh, and by the way, that means we'll have more inflation.
And speaking of just printing more money, we're running a $2 trillion deficit every year, and that's like living on your credit card forever. The U.S. federal budget deficit, more than $1.8 trillion in 2026, already over $1 trillion in the first 5 months of the fiscal year. So you've got the Congressional Budget Office, and they say it's expected to grow by more than $3 trillion by 2036. And you've got some budget watchdogs. They warn that the deficits, obviously, they're not sustainable for long term without spending cuts or revenue increases. Revenue increases, that's more taxes.
Yeah, that's a fancy term.
That's a nice way of saying costing you more money.
Yeah, fancy word for I'm going to take more of your money.
Mm-hmm.
This is, and I think we catch some flack on this show and maybe some other shows on this station for not towing the Republican line all the time and for pushing back against Republicans when they're not doing what they say they're going to do. And I think this is at the core of it right here. As conservatives, as Republicans, as part of the Republican Party platform, both in this state and at the federal level, the core of it is fiscal conservatism. Reduced spending, reduced taxes. And then what happens every single time? Republicans get in power and spend your money just like they're Democrats. I give you 2025 as the example. Fresh off of the 2024 election, the Republicans have the House. Republicans have the Senate. Donald Trump comes into presidency with a great approval rating. And what did they spend all of that political capital on? The biggest thing that they did last year, passing the big beautiful bill. And the big beautiful bill was nothing more than, by the way, not only Biden-level spending, but an additional $5 trillion on top of that. Oh, the debt's going to grow by a ton beyond that. Oh, if we just did nothing, didn't pass the big beautiful bill, sure, we're going to put trillions on the national debt. But by passing the big beautiful bill, we put another $5 trillion on the national debt. This is at its core what I think most Republicans have the biggest frustration about their party, saying that they are fiscal conservatives and then getting in power and spending like Democrats. And they do it every single time.
Interest on the debt is projected to more than double, topping $2 trillion per year by the mid-2030s. And if we don't get it under, I feel like I'm Rand Paul. If we don't get it under control now, you're just stacking bills for your kids and your grandkids. It's not free. It means more debt, more interest, and less economic opportunity down the road. You're spending away our children's future.
And we've seen the damage that inflation causes to an entire society. And look, I get that there's a whole generation that doesn't remember the out-of-control inflation from the late 70s and the early 80s. Okay, fine, I get that. Well, we all just went through it 4 or 5 years ago, and we saw how awful inflation was and how it made living in this country unaffordable for just millions and millions and millions of people. That is the only way out of this. That's the only way out of this, because we're at the point now where we really can't grow ourselves, or at least reasonably expect to grow ourselves out of this debt. We know that nobody's going to stop spending money. Democrats love spending your money. Republicans love spending your money. What's the last tool that we're left with? Printing more money. They'll just keep printing more money, and the more money they print, the higher inflation we'll have, and we've just seen how high inflation can be so devastating to the working people of this country.
Don't know if you heard about this, but there was a major cyber attack. It hit Stryker, which is a U.S.-based medical technology company, and they're based in Cork, Ireland. Security experts believe the attack happened on March 11th. Just yesterday. And so what does that mean? Well, you had a global network disruption affecting a lot of medical devices. So when you're talking modern warfare, this time it's digital.
Yeah, this was kind of a surprising story that came out yesterday, and Stryker's got a pretty big presence up in northern Indiana here. And one of the interesting things that I found out about this, and I think this is something that everybody in the workforce today can relate to. So they disrupted pretty much every aspect of Stryker's IT infrastructure and as far as it reaches. But we heard a lot of reports from Stryker employees who use things like personal phones, personal laptops for work, and somehow the hackers were able to get into that and completely wipe. And again, these are just reports right now, but completely wipe all of the data off of their personal phones and personal laptops. So I think I was fascinated by that aspect of it. And I think that's going to be an interesting conversation that's going to be happening at workplaces all around the country today is, hey, I thought I was being a good employee here and, using my personal phone and my personal laptop to access company data. But if you can't protect me from that,
right,
I might not be using my phone for work stuff anymore.
Well, not only attacking the company, they make life-saving medical equipment. It's not just attacking a business. At that point, you could be potentially slowing down hospitals and also supply chains that people rely on every single day. It doesn't just become an IT problem. It becomes a health problem and also a national security risk.
Yeah, and up until now, when we hear about corporations getting hacked, it's generally, somebody in, Iceland or Russia, and they're trying to hold it ransom for a Bitcoin transfer, and those can be pretty devastating. This is completely different. This is a state-sponsored hacking event that took place here in the United States, and that's going to be at a different level. And so far, it seems like it's at a different level because it wasn't just holding data for hostage. It was just completely wiping out data and destroying their entire IT infrastructure.
You're listening to 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
3,364 children found by ICE.
Don't forget, lost under Biden and cartels enabled with his open border policies.
The wine moms meetings in Westfield, they're not going to talk about this. 3,364. If my tax dollars are going to be spent, I'm fine with that.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
March is an
an exciting time of the year, and we want you to go all the way. That's why Hubler's got you covered with the best warranty around. During tax time, bring in your refund. We'll double it towards your down payment, up to $2,000. Shop any of Hubler's 13 locations or online at drivehubler.com. Choose from over 2,000 vehicles, all makes and models. Plus, get even more for your trade. Bring Hubler your old car for an immediate appraisal on the spot. And up to $2,000 more for your trade. Every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty and a free Carfax history report. Tax time at Hubler means you get more for your refund. Up to $2,000 more at any of our 13 convenient locations or visit drivehubler.com. Cover me!
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old. Deductions for high mileage maintenance, reconditioning. See dealer for details.
At Pella Windows and Doors of Indianapolis, we've spent decades helping homeowners replace their windows and doors with products they can trust, installed by local experts. For a limited time, get 24% off Pella products. Visit PellaIndy.com/radio to learn why America's homeowners rate Pella Windows and Doors #1 most trusted and highest value. Call 833-87-PELLA. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Study of homeowner perceptions of leading national brands. Study commissioned by Pella, 2023.
My grades were bad. I would get D's and C's.
I appeared to be doing good at my school life, but if you would see me at home, it would have been a completely different story.
I mean, it was just rough focusing on school when your mother is somebody you have to take care of.
It got worse and worse and worse throughout the years.
There are students who need somebody.
They can trust someone, and it could be the first person they've ever trusted in their life.
Communities in Schools is lowering America's dropout rate by helping more than 1.3 million kids every year get whatever they need to succeed in school.
If something was going on at home, we would go just stop by Miss Liberty's office and talk to her.
Communities in Schools vouched for me when everyone else had lost hope.
You can help change the picture of education right here in your community and across the nation. Visit communitiesinschools.org.
I hear people say we can't save every kid, but I think that we can.
I move mountains for a living. Literally. That means I don't carry hand lotion, and when it comes to serious heartburn, I don't mess around with anything but Rolaids. Rolaids' dual-active formula has calcium carbonate and magnesium hydroxide that relieves heartburn fast. Yeah, you heard right. 2 actives for that powerful relief. And the best part? The roll fits right here in my pocket, so I can get back to moving mountains.
Rolade spells powerful relief. Read each label. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
As you know, I had my garage floor coated with Galaxy concrete coatings a while back, and like anyone, I did some homework before I said, let's do this. Here are some things that I found out. First, Galaxy concrete coatings is local and ready to give you in all of Indianapolis a transformation. Next, Galaxy concrete coatings is 4 times stronger than epoxy, and it's designed to not only work in your garage, but they can also use it on driveways, walkways, around your pool or patio. With it being UV resistant, it will not yellow. Oh, and it's ready to go in 24 hours, so you can drive, walk, run, dance, splash on it right away. Now for my fun part. I got you 15% off. Just tell them when you call 317-343-0879 you want the Casey deal. You got to tell them the Casey deal for 15% off. And check out their site at galaxyconcretecoatings.com. They are truly out of this world.
Were you born from 1945 to 1965? People born during these years are 5 times more likely to have hepatitis C. So even if you try to eat right, exercise, and take care of yourself, you could still have hepatitis C, a serious disease that's a leading cause of liver cancer. If you were born from 1945 to 65, you should get a blood test for hepatitis C. Treatments can cure this disease. Talk to your doctor about getting tested. A message from the CDC.
This hour is powered by Swain Co., Indy's most trusted crawl space and basement contractor.
State Senator Jim Buck is 80 years old, and decades in politics and government have changed him. Maybe once he voted like a conservative, but he's changed. How else can you explain why Senator Buck voted with liberal Democrats in Indianapolis to oppose President Trump's agenda on congressional redistricting? Or why Jim Buck voted to let China own Hoosier farmland, putting Hoosier families at risk. Or why Jim Buck voted to raise our gas tax, increasing your pain at the pump. Against Trump, letting China own our land, increasing the gas tax. It's a pathetic and sad pattern, a sign of a politician who's been in office too long. Call State Senator Jim Buck at 317-232-9400. Tell him 32 years in politics and government is enough. Support Trump's policies or retire already. Paid for by Hoosier Leadership for America.
Oh, this is a good one. Complaint Radio. It's time for my new favorite segment. What's your problem?
Got a lot of problems with you people. What's your problem, Casey?
You want to know what my problem is?
I do.
My problem is that 6 years ago today, we woke up to a completely different world. Now, 6 years later, 56% of Americans believe COVID shots caused mass deaths. In the past 6 years, we've had 0 election fraud arrests, 0 COVID arrests, 0 deep state arrests, 0 auto pen arrests. What did we get? We got lockdowns. We got stay-at-home orders. We got school closures. We got limits on large gatherings, dramatically altering our daily life. We still have inflation that we're paying for. 6 years ago didn't just mark a health crisis, it marked a complete shift in how governments interact with citizens.
The game tonight has been postponed. You are all safe. And take your time in leaving the arena tonight and do so in an orderly fashion. Thank you for coming out tonight. We are all safe. And you can visit OKCThunder.com for updates on upcoming games.
Borders closed, travel was halted, everyday freedoms were restricted, and it happened overnight. And now it's worth asking how future responses are going to react. I believe next week we're going to have Jim Merritt join us with his recent study on lessons that we learned from that disastrous time.
Yeah, you and I talked about this yesterday, and you said to me, you're like, hey, we should really do this kind of COVID look back. It's the 6th anniversary. And my initial reaction is, oh, God.
No.
I don't have any interest in reliving anything and remembering anything that happened in COVID. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, no. I'm still angry. I'm still really angry. I mean, the number of people that lost their jobs because they weren't given the vaccine. The number of businesses that were forced to close and will never, ever reopen. Liquor stores were allowed open, but your church, that was closed.
Yeah.
Get the vaccine or lose your job. The number of elderly and others that died alone because of lockdowns and people weren't allowed to be with them either in the hospital or in the nursing home. If you didn't get the vaccine, there was talk that you should not be allowed any sort of health care if you didn't get the vaccine. Oh, by the way, there was even talk that if you don't get the vaccine, we may come and take your kids away. That was the kind of things that we saw. Billions and billions of fraud from COVID money. We destroyed an entire generation's education because of the way we shut down the schools. And remember who did that? It was the teachers' unions that in some states had the schools shut down for 1 to 2 years. In those states, it was the teachers' unions who are supposed to be looking out for our kids and giving them the best education that they could get, and instead destroyed an entire generation on their education. And absolutely no one, not only was no one held accountable, Joe Biden pardoned many of them, including Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, major economic and social disruption, and 6 years later, we're still dealing with it. It's like, it's one of those things. Oftentimes with a memory, you look back and you're like, oh, nostalgic for it. No, this isn't one of those good time look backs. This is one of those, I'm still pissed about this.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because we do tend to, when we look back, we tend to remember the good times and not the bad times.
Right.
And you think about things, and you're like, it wasn't so bad, or I'm glad we went through that, or it builds character. No, when it comes to COVID, there are no good times to be remembered. I certainly don't remember any good times. It's just the stripping of our freedoms. And one of the worst things that came about this, that we will live with for generations to come is every politician learned that they can feed you a line of BS and tell you what to do, and the American people just took it.
Mhm.
We just took it. We took it on the chin. You got to get this vaccine or you lose your job. Okay, I guess so. Oh, we're closing down churches and we're closing down society and shutting down businesses. Oh, but our constituents, this lawmaker over here, he owns a big chain of liquor stores. We better leave those open. Okay, fine. They took away our freedoms, and the vast majority in this people in this country did absolutely nothing to fight back
And they
on.
made stuff up. The social distancing, where did that come from? It's just random crap they pulled out of the air.
Well, I can remember
There's no science behind that.
Very specifically, Dr. Fauci being on TV and telling all of us masks don't do anything.
Uh-huh.
This was in the first weeks of COVID. Nope, don't worry about masks. They don't do anything. And then within a couple of months, no science dictated that. There's no science behind it that changed it. It was, nope, we want to control what you do, and you've got to wear a mask to go anywhere in public, and if you don't, you're going to get arrested.
Yeah. I often think maybe I'm especially bitter of this because our daughter was a senior in high school, went to school one day, and the next day just never went back. No graduation, no prom, none of the typical rites of passage that a high school senior would have. And then, as an incoming freshman at Purdue, forced to get that vaccine if she wanted to attend college. And the first entire year and a half of her college experience was spent behind a mandated mask.
Well, and also she lived in the dorms, but she might as well have just lived at home because all of her classes were online anyway.
Right.
So it was frustrating.
So what did we pay for?
And yeah, her high school graduation was a YouTube show that we all watched on our living room couch. That's what it is. Yeah, I don't have any good memories from COVID. And like I said, initially didn't want to talk about this, but I'm glad we did because I'm angry and I got to get it off my chest. I'm still angry.
So you want to know what my problem is? That's my problem. You're listening to 93 WIBC.
It's over. Bassett Services is the name you can trust to keep your home warm and safe. From furnace repairs to full system replacements, we provide reliable solutions with care and professionalism. For urgent repairs or routine maintenance, Bassett delivers service you can depend on. We've been the first call for heating and cooling in Indianapolis for decades, so sound the hound at BassettServices.com for all your heating needs. Bassett Services.
Always by your side.
Spring is fast approaching and a great time for a new Lincoln at Tom Roush Lincoln in Fishers. 0% financing is back. That's right, 0% for 48 months on new Corsair, Nautilus, and Aviator. Plus 0% for 36 months on new Navigator. With these rates, it's absolutely the best time to buy. Be sure to check them all out at Tom Roush Lincoln in Fishers. Our family serving yours since 1972.
0% APR for 48 months on 2026 Lincoln Corsair, Nautilus, and Aviator. 0% APR for 36 months on 2025 Lincoln Navigator. Subject to credit approval. Offers end 3/31/26. See dealer for complete offer details.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. Mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe. All great writers. And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet. So make a free call to Page Publishing. Turn your book idea into publishing gold.
800-215-6818. 800-215-6818. That's 800-215-6818.
Why'd I go to the doctor? Working on the farm, my heart kept skipping a beat. I didn't think much of it. But my daughters made me get checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
We're just going to live with this wet basement forever? Or are we going to get it fixed by the pros? Call Swanco, 317-407-1868, SwancoLLC.com.
Do you need air conditioning service and need to find a local well-trained expert you can trust, like Family Heating and Air Conditioning? Find that American Standard Air dealer at IndyHomeComfort.com.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Confirming there were 3.
I'm Jarrett Lewis. Here's what's trending this hour. The National Weather Service says 3 tornadoes hit parts of northwest Indiana late Tuesday, and EF3 was the strongest in Newton County. An elderly couple died in that storm. Meteorologist Jason Puma says severe weather threats are possible for central Indiana on Sunday.
We would say damaging straight-line winds and large hail would be the main threat, but if we do start seeing enough shear available in the atmosphere, we can't rule out an isolated tornado or two.
More strong winds and 50-degree temperatures are likely for Friday. Governor Mike Braun is backing the idea of having Turning Point USA student groups in Indiana schools. He issued a proclamation relating to that earlier today. IU is knocked out of the Big Ten tournament by Northwestern. That's who Purdue will play tonight in Chicago. And the legendary collection of rock and roll items and historical artifacts from late Colts owner Jim Irsay is being auctioned off today in New York. I'm Jarrett Lewis on the Level, on the go, and on WIBC.com.
Sails were inspected, ships repositioned, the harbor stirred with quiet intent.
WIBC celebrates the spirit of 76, brought to you by the WIBC Daily Newsletter.
March 12, 1776. British transports began preparing for departure from Boston Harbor. Loyalist families crowded the docks, uncertain where exile would take them. Above the city, Washington's guns still commanded the heights, their threat constant and undeniable. Nothing had been announced, but everything was understood. 8 years of occupation were ending, not with a battle cry, but with packed ships and silent resolve.
The spirit of 76, history remembered, freedom celebrated. Have the latest headlines and show content delivered to your inbox daily. Sign up at WIBC.com.
Got a lot of public money flying out, and there's little oversight. What does that do? That's going to invite waste, and it hurts credibility for families who really need help. And we're taking a look now at how some Medicaid costs are skyrocketing, and this is because there has been a rapid surge in autism therapy. And the Wall Street Journal did an analysis of this, and they said that Medicaid payments for some of these services grew about $660 million in 2019 to $2.2 billion in 2023. And in one case, there was a company here in Indiana that received $29 million in 2023 for 84 payments, or 84 patients. And that's roughly about $340,000 per child.
Yeah, this is a shocking article, and it's on the Wall Street Journal's website right now, and there's a lot of specifics about Indiana on here. In fact, the article starts off talking about this place called Piece by Piece Autism Centers, which was given in 2023. This is just in 1 year, 2023, according to this article. It's given $29 million by the state of Indiana to provide autism therapy to just 84 patients. That comes out to $340,000 a year per child. And the person who owns that organization, Piece by Piece, he spoke with the article, gave quotes, and said things like, quote, "I don't think Indiana really had any oversight, or not much." I mean, they were sitting here and admitting and talking about how, hey, I just operated within the rules and I raised my prices and nobody in Indiana said anything. So I just kept on going and doing this. This is, I'm almost as upset about this as I was about our last break where we talked and recapped all the awful things that happened during COVID. This is so frustrating. So this is why it's things like this. This is why when any government entity comes crying poor mouth, whether it's local schools or local cities or the state government, which, by the way, just ended up a $1 billion shortfall last year and raised your taxes by $1 billion. Anytime any government entity cries looking for more money, my first reaction is absolutely not. Not until you have gone through and rooted out every bit of waste, fraud, and abuse that you can find anywhere. Our taxes are insane in this state and in this country right now, especially with all the fraud that happens out there. But that's the solution, is always just throw more money at it, when it turns out we've kind of got our own Minneapolis Somali daycare situation happening right here in Indiana.
We have a Leering Center. Experts and regulators, they worried that the financial incentives could be encouraging overbilling or even excessive hours rather than focus on the patient's needs. And I'm not saying these patients don't have needs and they should not receive the care that is required. They absolutely should. However, you've got federal authorities that are now beginning to investigate into potential billing abuses in some states, and some reforms are underway to curb some of these reimbursements, but you can't turn Medicaid into this cash cow, because even if you had a good intention, that's not a way to justify it.
And look, I'm not disparaging necessarily this organization, Piece by Piece Autism Centers. It seems like they were very transparent. They basically just said, yeah, we were working within the rules, and I will give at least a tiny bit of credit, although I hate to do it, a tiny bit of credit to the state of Indiana, because according to this article, they did change some of the rules associated with this, but they were just spending and handing out millions and millions and millions of dollars
without any oversight.
Virtually no oversight, to where we could get to a situation, and again, it's talked about right here, where this one group was paid $29 million to provide care for 84 patients, $340,000 per autism child.
Yeah, and that was just in 1 year.
Just in 1 year.
Yeah, you've got the New York Giants co-owners. They have asked the NFL for permission to transfer their ownership stakes to their children's trust. That request, it came after a league memo which said the Tisch siblings currently hold 23.1% of the franchise, and they want to move the entire share into the trusts of their kids. And guess what?
What?
It all has to do with Epstein.
Yeah.
There were some reports that were linking the Steve Tisch and his past associations with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a couple of weeks since we've really talked a whole lot about the Epstein files. There's been other stuff going on, like military action in Iran, but that doesn't mean we're going to forget about this. And yeah, the Giants owner Tisch was in the Epstein files a lot, and I know that everybody, including myself, has a lot of frustrations because we're looking for justice any way we can get it, and it doesn't look like we're going to get it in the in the criminal system, and it doesn't look like we're going to get it in a lot of other ways. So the only other option we've got is to shame these people, and the problem here is I'm worried that this transfer is just for show. I mean, this owner of the New York Giants, Tisch, who's in the Epstein files, is transferring team ownership to his children's trust. Now, the skeptical person in me sits here and says, well, that guy's still going to have a lot of influence in that company, even if he's transferred it to his children's trust. Or
is this classic estate planning? Because that happens often.
As part of it, too, well, they may be doing it for estate planning purposes and hoping they'll get a pass on the Epstein file aspect of it, because it will probably make any of these issues with him and the Epstein files go away. But we're going to hear more and more about this. It just came out yesterday that Steve Cohen, the owner of the New York Mets, allegedly showed up in the Epstein files as well. So, again, you've got these powerful billionaires that happen to own sports franchises. It's not a surprise that a couple of them so far, at least a couple of them so far, have shown up in the Epstein files.
Whether it's just succession planning or if there's a real reason behind the legal maneuver, the fans deserve some sort of transparency. They want to know who they're rooting for.
Yeah, I would
what
think
the makeup of the team is.
I would think so, and unfortunately, this is probably enough of a move to where everybody just moves on and says, okay, our issue with the owner of the Giants and Tisch is done, and now we can move on to what other dirtbag that was in the Epstein files and see how we can hold them accountable.
Speaking of NFL, you've got Jim Irsay, former longtime owner of the Indianapolis Colts, and his collection, one of the most iconic music and pop culture memorabilia collections over the years. It is being auctioned at Christie's in New York today. The sale expected to bring about $30 million.
Yeah, Jim Irsay, did build up one of the most impressive memorabilia collections, and I'm talking everything from sports memorabilia. I mean, he's got one of Muhammad Ali's championship belts. And I think that way he ended up paying $5 or $6 million or something like that. He's got incredible, Kurt Cobain's guitar and drum sets from the Beatles and items from Jackie Robinson and Secretariat and Wayne Gretzky and Johnny Cash and Prince. It's amazing that when the state of Indiana gives you a free $1 billion stadium, it's funny how much more money
you can buy.
how much money you've got freed up to spend on other stuff like collectibles. It's amazing how that works.
Paul McCartney's handwritten "Hey Jude" lyrics, Ringo Starr's drumhead from the Beatles, their first Ed Sullivan show. I mean, it's quite a collection, and it will now be piecemealed out to multiple owners.
Yeah, and if
multiple bidders.
And look, I have no ability. I'm sure whatever the cheapest item is on here, I couldn't even dream of coming up with that much money for it. But it is kind of fun to look at all the items. So you can go to Christie's right now, and they've got them all listed there. Just incredible sets. George,
Do you have it up right now?
I do. So
do you see like the highest item?
Well, bidding doesn't start for another 5 hours, and so
there's no reserves on it.
And so there are. Well, they've got price estimates on things, but no bidding will. The bidding starts in 5 hours. So the number one, the highest priced estimate. These are the things. Kurt Cobain's Fender Mustang guitar used in the music video to "Smells Like Teen Spirit." David Gilmour from Pink Floyd, his Fender Stratocaster, and then the original typescript scroll for the monumental first draft of "On the Road" by Jack Kerouac. That estimate is for between $2.5 and $4 million. Wow! But those are the top three items. By the way, the number one item, that Cobain guitar, it also has an estimate of between $2.5 to $5 million. And as somebody who has a business that is associated with collectibles, I'm going to say that $5 million estimate is low.
Yeah.
It's low. I think a lot of these estimates are low. These are one-of-a-kind items that will likely never, ever come up for sale again. And there are plenty of rich billionaires out there looking to spend some money on stuff, and these are just too tasty for some of those people to pass up.
So here in Indy, we're going to have the Final Four and free concerts with some big-name artists. The announcement came down. Indianapolis set to host the 26th NCAA March Madness Music Festival. That's going to take place April 3rd through the 5th. It's all part of the Final Four weekend festivities. The event, free to the public, takes place downtown around American Legion Mall. These are the headlining acts. You have 21 Pilots. They're going to play on Friday, April 3rd. And you have the Zac Brown Band will be performing on Saturday, April 4th.
It blows me away. She's everything I want to say to a woman, but I couldn't find the words to say. She got whatever it is. I don't know what to do. 'Cause every time I try to tell her how I feel, it comes out, I love you. You got whatever it is.
There's also going to be a surprise headliner, which is to be revealed later. There are going to be some live streaming viewing options as well if you can't attend in person.
Yeah, so American Legion Mall, if you're not familiar with that, where that is, it's downtown, just north of the Circle, about 5 or 6 blocks on Meridian Street. So it's really a great location for a concert. I'm really shocked at this. I mean, Zac Brown Band, that's a huge country band. I mean, a huge fan base. And for them to be able to bring them to town and have an absolute free concert, there's going to be a lot of people on American Legion Mall watching Zac Brown Band. That's going to be a fun time.
By the way, I just saw last night during my weekly Survivor episode viewing that Zac Brown Band is making an appearance on Survivor next week.
You can't get away from Zac Brown Band.
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere.
Right
Hit me
now.
with some chicken fried. Man, I mean, they got great songs. They're going to be fun. I honestly want to go to this, and it takes a lot to get me out of my house to go to a concert these days.
So Whitney Cummings, comedian, she was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and she was unleashing a takedown of liberal hypocrisy, and it had everybody, including Joe Rogan, nodding. Check this out.
I was as liberal. I had blue hair, you guys. Like
yeah, I remember when you had blue hair.
I rescue pit bulls. Like it doesn't get any more liberal than me. Like it doesn't get any more. But the whole idea with being liberal is like you had me at we're not racist. Everyone's equal. But that diversity. But then it turns into diversity.
Communism.
Diversity, but not diversity of thought.
Right.
Not the hypocrisy of it got. And I think that as comics, we're people who, I may not be an expert in politics, but I'm an expert on hypocrisy. When you grow up around alcoholics who say, I love you, and then their behavior's incongruous, you look for patterns of hypocrisy. That's just what we're wired to do. So it just started to just be like, hold on, we don't believe in gender, but we need a female president. You're like, huh? And then it's like, my body, my choice, unless it's a baby that needs a vaccine for hepatitis B, which comes from like, what do you, right?
And sharing needles.
And then, we believe in climate change and sea is rising, but we live on the coast. Like, would you buy a house on the beach if you truly believed that the seas are,
So that was aired a few months ago, but I think it's still relevant today because she's talking about hypocrisy. You hear these politicians say one thing and do another, and we're seeing that right now with the SAVE Act and Senator Thune.
And one of the interesting things I think that she said there that people may have overlooked is she talks about how being a comic, what you do is you're kind of put in a position to sniff out the BS. That's your job as a comic, to look for these patterns and find comedy in them, but then you also find truth in them. And so when I started thinking about that, I was like, yeah, that does kind of make a lot of sense. Look at all the comedians that used to be liberal that have come over to the conservative side, whether it's Joe Rogan, who is still a stand-up comedian, Theo Vaughn, who's still a stand-up comedian, Andrew Schultz, and all these guys and these comedians that sniffed this out and used to be liberal and have now moved more conservative.
Yeah. You're listening to 93 WIBC. Good morning.
Coming up on the Hammer and Nigel show, possible toll roads on I-70 starting in a few years. That's at 3 o'clock, 93 WIBC.
We had downsized. In that downsizing, my husband lost his man cave.
Everyone is talking about Galaxy Concrete Coatings and their transformation, like your neighbor Deb.
My husband and I were at the home show and saw all these vendors with garage floor coatings. The one that stayed with us was Galaxy.
Galaxy Concrete Coatings is 4 times stronger than epoxy.
I'm the only one home. And so it's nice when well-dressed, clean-cut, respectful crew show up. That's what Galaxy sent.
Commercial or residential, Galaxy transforms pools, patios, garage floors, and driveways in as little as 1 day. And it comes with a lifetime warranty.
Warranties are real important for us. And to know that should there be an issue, Galaxy was standing behind us. That's pretty much what tipped us over to go with Galaxy.
Click on GalaxyConcreteCoatings.com and remember to like us on Facebook.
We are so proud to open our garage store.
We're out of this world. Your Pacers return to Cambridge Fieldhouse for back-to-back games.
Up fakes the three, drives, and he went up and under beautifully. Spun it off the glass and drew the foul.
Watch the Blue and Gold take on the Suns Thursday at 7, followed by a rivalry showdown versus the Knicks Friday at 7:30.
Donald comes hard down the left side. A beautiful blind bounce pass back into the lane. It's gobbled up and laid in by Neesmith.
Don't miss your chance to be in on the action.
Nemhard from the right edge beat the shot clock and hit a three.
Grab tickets today at Pacers.com/tickets.
Refresh your tires at Express Pro Tire and Auto. Right now, save $200 on a set of 4 Cooper tires. Call and compare, and you save. Visit XPRESSPro.com for locations.
Express Pro Tire and Auto.
Why'd I go to the doctor? Working on the farm, my heart kept skipping a beat. I didn't think much of it, but my daughters made me get checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
You listen to WIBC, now come work with us. We're looking for our next integrated marketing specialist. If you're an experienced sales professional with a proven track record, apply now at radio1.com/careers. Bilingual speakers preferred. Radio 1 is an equal opportunity employer.
Trump doing what Trump does. He was in Kentucky last night, and whether you love it or not, he was endorsing Jake Paul for an office that he has not announced he's running for.
I love that. Trump just throwing out endorsements all over the place. We had a story here where he endorsed somebody that was running to be a lawmaker in Indiana, and then that guy
dropped out
pretty darn quickly because he was like, this seems like a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's endorsing Jake Paul for some potential future office that's undisclosed that he's not
Yep.
running for.
It does kind of signal that's always been Trump's strategy, right? Energize the base with personality and spectacle. And he did it again last night when he was in Hebron, Kentucky. So Jake Paul, YouTuber turned boxer, and he actually invited him on the stage. And Trump predicted that Paul could run for a political office in the future and said that he has his complete and total endorsement if he chose to do so.
Come here, Jake.
Yeah, what Mr. Trump has taught me is courage. You know, we never back down from a fight, even if they're much bigger than you, much, much bigger than you. And I feel all the local Kentuckians feel the same way. You guys have that fight. You guys have that swag. There's a lot of young kids in here. The future of America. I grew up just a few hours away from here, and my dad taught me to fight. And all of our voices matter in America. And I'm never afraid to speak the truth, and I know you guys aren't. We are here representing the United States, and it's just a blessing. Thank you, Mr. Trump. We need more factories like this thriving all over the country, and I know he's going to be the one to bring that here to us. I know God is with us. I know he wants us on the right side of history, and everyone here has to do their part. And God's got us. Trump's got us. God bless.
So you've got this social media star, and he is, well, I mean, he's just replacing celebrities, right? Because you've long had politicians bring on celebrities as part of their campaign. So now it's just a social media influencer. That's what you're doing. You're just borrowing from an entertainment source. It's just a different source.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too in the weeds on Jake Paul versus Logan Paul, which are the brothers, but I do get them confused frequently, so I think it's important. Jake Paul is the quote-unquote professional boxer. He is also was a former Disney Channel star and is now looking to maybe put himself into politics. Logan Paul, different. He's into WWE wrestling and has done some wrestling things, but he's also known for his podcast, his YouTube channel, his energy drink Prime. And Logan Paul was also the guy, we talked about it a few weeks ago, that sold the Pokemon trading card for a record $16 million. So keep in mind, this is not Logan Paul in the wrestling and the Pokemon. This is Jake Paul, who's the boxer and the Disney Channel kid, and now maybe wants to be a politician. The other thing, too, is he mentioned about how he grew up a few hours away from here, and while that is technically true, he did not grow up in the state of Kentucky, where they were talking about and having this event. He grew up in Ohio. So, yeah. He probably wouldn't run for anything in Kentucky, would probably run for something where he lives now in California or in Ohio.
But bringing somebody on the stage who isn't even running and then endorsing him, it does show that there's a lot of media influence and how much that shapes the political momentum right now. And a lot of people were commenting that he was really pitted out during his speech. He was sweaty.
Well, he's a boxer. He's always working out. He was probably just hitting the bag real hard. But the other interesting thing, you mentioned celebrities. You know, there are very few traditional celebrities anymore from TV shows and movies. I mean, the entire entertainment industry has been gutted, and it's difficult. We've still got some legacy stars like Tom Cruise, but most of today's celebrities
are the influencers
come from social media and YouTube, and this is just going to be the case going forward.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for listening. This is 93 WIBC.
Got a few kids of my own, and some days I still don't know what to do. I hope that they're not laughing too loud when they hear me talking like this to you. That's when I spoke was spoke, and grooving was grooving, dancing everything.
Wesley is a truck driver.
I drive a truck, and I love what I do.
A truck driver with IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Quite a few letters in the mail. They were talking about wage garnishment, coming after my house, my car. Yeah, they don't play around. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
One sleepless night, Wesley finally made a call to Optima Tax Relief at 2 a.m.
Kind of figured figured I'd get a machine, but I didn't. I actually got to talk to an actual person in the middle of the night.
He found just what he was looking for.
Oh, they were great people. You need a team of people that know what they're doing. Optima Tax, they know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Happy don't even come close. I was absolutely overjoyed.
Take Wesley's advice.
If you're in any kind of trouble with the IRS, call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-598-4799. 800-598-4799. 800-598-4799.